When everyone was sacrificing their most valuable possessions, desperate for even a white-tier reward, you took out a bag of spicy strips and tossed them into the center of the altar. The people around you mocked you, calling you a pathetic attention seeker, but little did they know. The altar suddenly erupted with the highest-level folk glow. From within the light, a mythical item that had never appeared before emerged, all because you awakened the only unique ability, the Eye of Truth. It allows you to see through every altar's linked coordinates and demands. As long as you offer the right item based on those needs, you can claim the altar's top reward. Surprisingly, just a few hours ago, you were still a workhorse whose savings had been drained by your ex-girlfriend. She took the Dior bag you just bought her and hopped into a brand new Maybach. As you walked down the road, you felt like the sky was falling. But then, a massive roar actually echoed from the heavens. Following that, countless altars descended from the sky, instantly plunging the entire world into a shroud of panic. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through your eyes. When you opened them again, you noticed on a nearby altar a line of text that only you could see. Altar number 666, linked coordinates. Infinite abyss. A giant beast that once devoured all things, now bored after endless eons. Right now, he craves a type of food that can bring an ultimate, stimulating future. At this moment, the people around also gathered. When a fat guy threw the bread in his hand into the altar, a soft white light flickered a moment later, and a glowing fruit appeared. The chubby guy's breathing grew heavy. Without hesitation, he stuffed the fruit into his mouth. The fat on his body vanished instantly, turning him into a shredded muscle man in the blink of an eye. This scene made the crowd unable to sit still any longer. One after another, they threw their most valuable items into the altar. For a moment, whether it was Patek Philippe watches or gold and diamonds, the frenzied crowd threw them all in without a second thought. Watching this, your mind went blank because only you knew that the creature behind the altar just wanted an ultimate taste sensation. And you just happened to have a bag of Reaper spicy strips a friend brought from abroad. You only took one lick back then, and it felt like your butt grew 3 tails. If a piece of bread could net an empowerment fruit, what would you get if you gave him exactly what he wanted? Thinking of this, you sprinted home and rummaged through everything to find that bag of Reaper spicy strips. After calming down, you didn't rush out the door. Instead, you turned on your computer to check the news. As expected, the global internet had already exploded. Every website was being spammed with the word altar. A Middle Eastern sheikh sacrificed a carload of gold and obtained a transcendent ability. A tycoon used a truck to haul in piles of gold bars and dumped them all onto the altar. Unexpectedly, he received a blue-tier reward. The altar gave back a seed emitting a blue aura. After the tycoon swallowed it, he gained the terrifying ability to summon vines. Besides that, another piece of news caught your attention. Japan's sacrifice failed, summoning a man-eating demon. A kendo master sacrificed his ancestral blade, but unexpectedly, a demon shrouded in dark miasma appeared. Japan is currently suffering heavy casualties, and the military has intervened. Reading the news, you gasped. So a failed sacrifice can actually trigger a horrific disaster. Therefore, it's crucial to precisely sacrifice what the other party craves. Just then, your phone suddenly vibrated. Emergency announcement from the Dragon Kingdom authorities. Preliminary research shows that sacrificing to the mysterious altars carries huge risks and a limit on attempts. Every person can only use an altar once. Actually, only 3 sacrifices per person per day. Meanwhile, the arrival of the altars triggered an unknown energy pulse, frying all surveillance equipment across the globe. Seeing this, your heart skipped a beat. Isn't this a God-given opportunity? You checked the time on your phone. 10 p.m. After packing the Reaper spicy strips, you headed back to the plaza without hesitation. It was deserted, with only leftover scraps from the day's sacrifices. You pulled the bag of Reaper strips from your pocket, then carefully placed it upon the altar. Suddenly, the altar shook violently. A crimson light shot into the sky, and in an instant, the entire city was shrouded in a blood-red glow. Residents, still on the streets kilometers away, were terrified by this world-ending sight. At the same time, you discovered a massive pitch-black egg appearing on the altar. You immediately pulled it into your arms and vanished from the spot without staying a second longer. Meanwhile, in the Dragon Kingdom capital, the alarm blared at the Paranormal Affairs Bureau headquarters. A man with a resolute face asked, "Have the coordinates been locked?" "Reporting to the general." Based on gathered info, the general range is locked. Looking at the location on the map, it was exactly your city, West District, Tiansheng. Immediately classify this as an S-Rank observation zone. Notify the Tiansheng branch. Find out what that red light was at all costs. By now, you had already run back home. Looking at the giant egg in your arms, you were a bit puzzled. What exactly is this? Surely I can't just crack it open to make some golden fried rice. Suddenly, a line of text surfaced on the eggshell. Abyssal Magic Dragon Egg. Quality, Mythical. After hatching, you'll gain an Abyssal Magic Dragon as a sidekick. Its power can even tear gods apart. Reading the description, you got hyped. Anyone who plays games knows that Mythical is definitely the highest rank of all. These Reaper spicy strips really didn't let you down. Suddenly, you realized something was up. Why can these eyes even analyze the items returned by the altar? You rushed into the bathroom and stared intently at yourself in the mirror. A line of text appeared. Eye of Truth. Quality, unique. Can perceive the cause and effect of all things. Gaze at an altar to see the coordinates of the plane it's linked to, as well as its causal requirements. Gaze at altar-related items to see their quality, name, and effects. So that's how it is. To think these eyes had so many uses. Suddenly you remembered the posts you saw earlier. Countless people got some incomprehensible dead wood after sacrificing, or a plain-looking stone. They had no idea what they were for, and could only let them go to waste. But you are different. You only need one look, and the information on those items will have nowhere to hide. Sniping high-tier loot in the future isn't impossible. You then tucked the dragon egg into your blanket. Checking the clock on the wall, 10:30 p.m. There was only an hour and a half left before the day ended. You still have 2 sacrifice opportunities left. Thinking of this, you packed potentially useful items into your backpack. Things like cooling oil, lighters, and philosophy books. Items others would consider junk. You didn't miss a single one. After stuffing in a fruit knife for self-defense, you noticed a photo frame on the desk. In the photo, Xia Weiwei was smiling brightly. Realizing there was no point in keeping it, you shoved the photo into your pocket, intending to throw it away. After heading out, you made a beeline for the abandoned industrial zone in the west of the city. It had been deserted for a long time, and the terrain was complex, making it the perfect spot for action. Suddenly, your phone rang. The caller was none other than your ex, Xia Weiwei. You hung up immediately and blocked her. Meanwhile, inside a 5-star hotel, Xia Weiwei was staying with Zhang Yang. She thought you were still stuck in that crappy rental house, drowning in sorrow. Who would have thought you'd dare hang up the next second? A surge of unexplained rage rose from her heart. How could a loser like him who got dumped by her have the nerve to hang up? What's wrong, babe? A simple greeting instantly dissolved Xia Weiwei's rising anger. Looking at the man before her, she was extremely satisfied. He could pull out bags worth tens of thousands and watches worth hundreds of thousands at will. In this era, these were the best sacrifices. Devotion and vows were completely worthless in the face of such opportunities. After all, she sacrificed the Dior bag you gave her, and the altar actually emitted a soul-stirring green light. Moreover, her next 2 sacrifices were also the rare green-tier light. This proved she was the chosen one of this era. Zhang Yang also seemed to care for her, but deep in his eyes lay cold calculation. He originally only planned to spend a little money to play around, but he didn't expect this woman's luck to be so insane. To get green-tier sacrifices 3 times in a row, keeping her around might be very useful later. On the other side, you had already reached the abandoned industrial zone. You had to find 2 suitable altars to sacrifice to before midnight, or the chances would be wasted. After a few steps, you found an altar. Altar number 2, 5091, linked coordinates, Scrap Metal Realm. A mechanical imp who enjoys collecting trash. He has a near-obsessive fanaticism for bottle caps. You shook your head slightly. Even if a trash-collecting mechanical imp was good, what kind of top-tier loot could he actually give? So after walking a bit further, another altar appeared before your eyes. Altar number 18472, linked coordinates, the Dried Pond. A carp spirit on the verge of dying of thirst only wants to drink one more drop of sweet fresh water. You weren't satisfied with this one either, until you walked into a small alleyway filled with trash. After confirming no one was around, you locked your gaze onto this altar. Altar number 4444, linked coordinates, the Weeping Theater. A tragic lead actress eternally looping on stage, utterly weary of her predetermined script. She currently craves an item born from reality, betrayal, and filled with ultimate hatred and intense resentment. Your breathing tightened instantly. The ID was actually 4 fours, and her demand was extremely specific. But hadn't you just been dumped? You pulled out Jia Weiwei's photo, then slashed it with the fruit knife. Fearing that you couldn't express the hatred and resentment vividly enough, you closed your eyes and recalled, "What, you have a fever? But I already made plans to go shopping with my bestie. Just drink more water yourself. Where's my gaming account? I sold it. You men just waste your lives on toys. I'm keeping those few $1,000 to buy us some good food. You need to grow up. I don't want to suffer with you. We're destined for different worlds now, so stop pestering me." Thinking of this, you suddenly laughed. You took the lighter from your pocket and charred part of the photo. Then you placed the offering directly onto the altar. Suddenly, a pillar of purple light rose up. The commotion was more subtle than the red pillar, but this color hadn't been mentioned in the news either. You couldn't help but feel expectant. Then 5 worn-out ticket stubs appeared. You grabbed them in one swift motion. Eye of Truth activated. Alien text surfaced. Item series, ticket to the 4th act. Quality, epic. Single-use consumable. Upon use, it forcibly evokes the target's deepest fears or painful memories, causing a mental breakdown and 3 seconds of paralysis. It's actually epic grade. Although it doesn't compare to the initial dragon egg, it's still a 3-second hard CC item. That's enough to decide life or death in a fight. Plus, this seems to be part of a series. If you collect all the previous acts, what would happen? You had no time to overthink because there was only half an hour left until midnight. You kept searching the industrial zone and found another altar. Altar number 7591. Linked coordinates, the Lost Crossroads. A stray explorer. Cravings the correct directional guidance. You shook your head and turned to leave. You couldn't provide a suggestion for this demand. After walking forward a bit more, one particular altar caught your eye. Altar number 1988. Linked coordinates. The Silent Library. An elderly librarian, cravings to hear a single word of heartfelt praise. You almost settled for this one. But thinking of the hard life you led before, you decided you had to maximize your gains. After wandering around for a long time, you finally discovered a massive workshop. An altar stood eerily inside. Altar number 101010. Seeing the number, you didn't care much at first, but then you realized something was off. This ID was actually binary code. A line of text appeared. Linked coordinates, the logical origin. A super AI about to achieve self-awareness. He is a master of various complex deductions, yet he still cannot understand a paradox. Why do sentient beings ponder questions that are completely meaningless to survival? He cravings a sample of this invalid wisdom. You immediately decided it was him, so you took a book out of your backpack, a philosophy book titled Being and Nothingness. This was a perfect match for the request. After placing the item on the altar, a sharp noise felt like it was piercing your eardrums. The smell of burnt electronic components filled the air. You panicked for a moment. Did I just fry its CPU? All the light converged. Then suddenly, a lethal chill swept in from behind. Using the intense light, you spotted a dark shadow rushing toward you with superhuman speed. The tip of the blade was about to pierce your back. But in the next split second, the attacker's body froze in place, followed by a scream of agony. His dagger clattered to the floor as he clutched his head in pain, because before you could even react, you had used the ticket to the 4th act, trapping the opponent in his most painful memories. In those 3 seconds, you instantly drew the fruit knife tucked at your waist. With a swift strike, you finished him off. Afterward, you leaned against the wall, shaking uncontrollably. It was your first time killing someone. Looking at the corpse, you turned your head and vomited everything in your stomach. A moment later, you forced yourself to stand up. It seems that while high-tier light beams represent opportunity, they are also a death warrant that attracts lurkers in the shadows. Then, you noticed above the corpse, 2 dim white light orbs had emerged. Eye of Truth, activate. Light leggings, quality, common. Slightly increases movement speed and jumping power. Status, unowned. Next, you looked at the other item. Low-grade stamina charm. Quality, common. Slightly increases physical endurance. Status, unowned. Seeing the word unowned, a cruel rule of the Matrix flashed through your mind. Murder for loot. As long as you eliminate the opponent, you can claim the items they obtained from sacrifices as your own. This guy had 2 practical items. He likely had made a move on someone else before. But why? Was the internet filled with reports about the different lights? Yet not a single piece of information mentioned this risk. The more you thought about it, the more terrifying it became. It wasn't that no one knew, it was that those who did chose to stay silent. Some of them were like the corpse on the ground, while others wanted to be the hunters. Some were just too afraid to speak. Like the government, for instance, because announcing this news would be a tacit admission that social order had collapsed. The law of the dark forest had taken over. The whole world was heading toward an out-of-control abyss. Thinking of this, you didn't dare delay. After collecting the white light orbs, you immediately looked at the center of the altar. There sat a metal cube the size of a fist. Eye of Truth. Activate. Dimensional warehouse. Quality. Legendary. Once bound, grants an initial 1,000 cubic meter dimensional space. Use your thoughts to store or retrieve altar-related items at any time. It was actually a legendary tier item, and a logistical support one at that. You immediately thought of the magic dragon egg back home. Putting it in this space was undoubtedly the safest option. The moment your finger touched the cube, a vast space appeared in your consciousness. Then, with a single thought, the ticket to the fourth act was tossed inside. Having done all this, you checked your phone. It was just past midnight. You put away the blood-stained fruit knife, preparing to leave this dangerous place. However, just as you took 2 steps, a massive bolt of lightning suddenly tore through the sky. Immediately after, raindrops began to pour down from the heavens. Just a moment ago, the moon was bright and stars were sparse, so how did it suddenly start pouring rain? Something is wrong with this rain. You stayed put, not daring to make a reckless move. Though you had an umbrella in your bag, you didn't know if this rain was dangerous. After all, even something like the arrival of the altars had happened. It wasn't impossible for the rain to cause mutations. You took out your phone and began to browse. Sure enough, news about the rain was popping up on the forums. The hot topic earlier was sacrificed items, but now all the users were asking, "Is it thundering and raining over where you guys are too?" Brothers, there's definitely something wrong with this rain. Don't get wet or you might mutate. Oh no, I got rained on. I haven't even held a girl's hand yet. Please don't let me turn into a zombie. The posts refreshed at an incredible speed. Your heart sank bit by bit. If this rain really infects people, the consequences would be unthinkable. Before you could think of a plan, a post highlighted in red made your heart skip a beat. Holy crap, something huge happened. The altars are gone. After obtaining the red and gold tier rewards, levels never before mentioned in the news, your first instinct was to head home immediately. Unexpectedly, the sky that was just clear and starry was now suddenly pouring rain. Opening your phone, you saw that news about the rain was constantly popping up on the forums. The refresh rate of the posts was incredibly fast, but the news that worried you most wasn't the rain, but a red-labeled post. Something huge happened. The altars are gone! You whipped your head around to check, and sure enough, the altar behind you had indeed vanished. At the same time, you discovered with horror that the corpse from earlier was also gone, but you were certain no one had been here. The only explanation was the rain. Its appearance meant the altars would disappear, and it would also wash away the traces of the previous day. With global surveillance down, isn't this the perfect environment for murder for loot? Since the rain wasn't dangerous, you quickly took out an umbrella and headed home. Shortly after you left, the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs arrived at the scene. They soon discovered the workshop where the altar had just been. Team leader Qin Feng immediately looked toward the back of the squad. A girl in her early 20s stepped forward. Yesterday, after her sacrifice, she gained an ability, energy tracking. She can sense the natural energy remaining in a space. The higher the level of the fluctuation, the clearer the residual traces will be. Linwan closed her eyes and began to sense. Suddenly, she let out a muffled groan and collapsed backward. Lin Feng immediately caught her. "What's wrong?" Linwan panted heavily, her voice trembling. "This place is completely different from the blue light scene last night. You could say that place was like a firefly, but this place is as bright as day, like the sun." A team member couldn't help but ask, "Could it be gold tier?" Xin Feng's expression immediately became grave to the extreme. "Seal off this area immediately for a thorough investigation, and report this situation to the headquarters right away. Tell the higher-ups. I suspect a monster beyond imagination is hiding here. On the other side, as soon as you got home, you immediately put the magic dragon egg into the dimensional space. This way you wouldn't have to worry about the egg being stolen. If only the hatched magic dragon could be put in there too. But before that, the first thing to consider is how to hatch it. Thinking of the blood-binding trope in movies, you decided to give it a try. After squeezing a drop of blood onto the shell, A line of small text appeared on the dragon egg. Hatching condition. Absorb a sufficient amount of blood. This was pretty much what you expected. However, using only your own blood definitely wouldn't be enough. You'd have to find another way tomorrow. After all, your nerves had been high-strung all day and you were exhausted. Soon, you drifted off to sleep. At 5 a.m., a piercing alarm woke you up. The altars had actually refreshed. You opened your phone to check the forums. You quickly reached several conclusions. The late-night rain wasn't harmful to the body. Also, it stops at 5 a.m., which is exactly when the altars refresh. After getting up, you prepared to head out to grab some food, while also considering exactly where to get enough blood. You just arrived at a restaurant and ordered a bowl of noodles, then opened your phone to check the forums. Today, the content was all about sacrifices. Many had become gambling addicts for the sake of the altars. However, while you were eating your noodles, you overheard a conversation between two men nearby. One man said with a mysterious air, "Look at those people outside. All they know is sacrificing to the altars, offering up antiques and jades like gamblers, but they've forgotten one important thing." The man next to him grew curious. What could be more important than the altars? People always need to eat. So food supplies will always be a basic necessity. I'm planning to buy out a small food processing plant. When those lunatics have squandered all their money and come crying because they're hungry, I'll be the food king of Tiansheng. Hearing this, a bolt of lightning went off in your mind. Doesn't food processing involve meat? And where does that meat come from? Without a doubt, a slaughterhouse. If you could buy out a slaughterhouse at a low price, then your current problem would be easily solved. You quickly returned home, opened your laptop, and started checking information. Due to the impact of the altars, many factories were being sold off. Soon you locked onto a specific piece of info. Small slaughterhouse in the western suburbs for urgent sale due to personal reasons. Price negotiable. Without any hesitation, you dialed the number. Soon, you arranged a time with the other party for an in-person talk. After hanging up, you looked at your balance. In the eyes of some, this amount of money might not even pay for one decent sacrifice. But now, perhaps it could buy you a dragon's nest of your own. At 2 p.m., you arrived at the western suburbs of Tiansheng. A middle-aged man immediately came up to greet you. He then began introducing the facility. This slaughter line was just maintained last month at a high cost. That cold storage over there works like a charm. But you just scanned the surroundings without saying a word. Your indifferent attitude made him lose his confidence. He tentatively quoted an inflated price. You didn't speak, just shook your head. After some back-and-forth haggling, you finally bought the place for 40% of the asking price. After signing the agreement, he handed you the keys and gave you the contact for the nearby livestock farms, directly solving the supply issue. After patrolling your newly purchased grounds, you pushed open a hidden cellar door. It was a dilapidated storage room. Suddenly, the eye of truth sensed a faint energy fluctuation. After carefully prying away some wooden boards, an altar appeared before your eyes. The altar's appearance was blood red, and the sound of a beating heart could be heard. Resisting the fear, you activated the eye of truth, though a sharp pain shot through your eyes. Bloody, burning characters appeared. Altar number 40. Linked coordinates, Crimson Throne. All things are food until the Crimson Coronation. Special attribute. Eternal Altar. This altar exists permanently. Does not consume daily sacrifice attempts. Unlimited sacrifices. Special attribute. Flesh and blood. Furnace. Can sacrifice and convert any altar reward into essence blood. After absorption, it permanently increases total vitality and blood energy. You were shocked. This was the lowest numbered altar you had ever seen. Moreover, it was permanent. Even more OP was the unlimited sacrifices, and this location was practically your private exclusive spot. With this altar as a relay station, those useless items could be turned into essence blood to buff your own stats. At this moment, you couldn't wait to try it. Since you had a sacrifice reward on hand, you threw in the low-grade stamina charm from last night. In the center of the altar, an ancient-looking glass bottle appeared out of thin air, containing half a bottle of blackish liquid. As the Eye of Truth activated, a line of text surfaced. Name, Essence Blood, Quality, Common. Absorption slightly increases total blood energy. Permanent stat buff. It was exactly as you expected. Without hesitation, you drank it down. You thought it would taste foul and fishy, but it was surprisingly crisp and sweet. Just as you wondered why there was no reaction, a wave of heat exploded within your body. You felt every single cell greedily absorbing the heat. Steam began to rise from your skin. This felt completely different from those items, because this power burst forth directly from your flesh and blood. You then walked over to a side of beef. With just a simple punch, you actually sent the 100-pound slab of beef flying into the corner. This was even more terrifying than you imagined. Keep in mind, you only absorbed 1 bottle of common-grade essence blood. It seems becoming a physical powerhouse isn't just a dream. Suppressing the excitement in your heart, you plan to buy a batch of chickens tomorrow to hatch the dragon egg. For now, you needed to collect those unwanted reward items. Countless people spent a fortune on sacrifices, only to receive items they considered trash, and those were exactly your targets. Gambling has risks, but scavenging for junk doesn't. In the afternoon, you contacted the livestock farm owner, but ran into a new problem. Buying a batch of chickens requires money, and you had spent all your savings buying the slaughterhouse. Even though a new era had begun, currency was still the lever that moved everything, so you decided right then to go on a scavenging run first, to see if you could stumble upon any treasures. After obtaining the unique Crimson Throne altar, you prepared to use up your remaining daily sacrifice attempts. Unexpectedly, just as you reached the wet market, blood-curdling screams suddenly rang out from up ahead. A humanoid monster wearing tattered monk robes was tearing into a passerby. You immediately activated the Eye of Truth, flesh-eating monstrous monk. Rank, common calamity. Temple guardian monk, who was beaten to death after being framed for eating mutton. He hates all meat-related sacrifices. You understood instantly some genius must have sacrificed meat. Summoning this calamity monster from the black light, isn't that just asking for trouble? Suddenly, several SUVs sped onto the scene. The doors flew open and several figures jumped out immediately. Leading them was the Supernatural Affairs Bureau team leader, Tiansheng. With a cold expression, he issued orders. The scene was quickly cordoned off, and the onlookers were rapidly evacuated. But you stayed nearby and didn't leave. You saw Qin Feng look toward the woman behind him. Team leader, the energy fluctuations are very strong. Be extremely careful. Lin Wan's expression was serious. Behind the police line, you heard everything clearly. Holy crap, she can actually sense energy fluctuations? Isn't she a human radar? Suddenly, Lin Wan felt something and looked straight at you. For a moment, your eyes met. You suppressed the shock in your heart, maintaining the curiosity and fear a typical civilian should have on the surface. Lin Wan's brow furrowed slightly. She felt a strange energy fluctuation just now, but it was too faint. She wasn't sure if it was just an illusion. At that moment, the monstrous monk in the market let out a roar of rage. Qin Feng immediately ordered his team to begin suppressive fire. Unexpectedly, the monstrous monk wasn't afraid of firearms at all. Seeing this, Qin Feng gestured, "Team 2, go!" No sooner had he spoken than 2 figures shot out from the left and right. One of them was so fast he left afterimages, raising a dagger to strike the monk's neck. The other person directly lifted a massive iron frame and smashed it ruthlessly toward the monster's head. This fierce assault caused the monk to expose a clear opening. Qin Feng seized the chance to jump in himself, his long blade instantly wrapped in blinding lightning. With a single slash, he took the monk down. Watching this, you were somewhat shocked. Their teamwork was seamless, and the gap between you and them was currently huge. You had to hurry up and level up. Seeing the sun about to set, you decided to find a safer place to look for altars. So you headed toward the outskirts. Along the way, although you saw several altars, the overall quality was even worse than the first day. Just as you walked past a cluster of unfinished buildings, the Eye of Truth suddenly captured a faint energy fluctuation. Following the stairs to the second floor, a uniquely styled altar appeared before you. Altar number 1955. Linked coordinates, Eternal Clock City. A master clockmaker god who pursues ultimate precision. Because the eternal clock he created was too perfect, he fell into endless boredom. He craves to make some kind of change. Seeing this, you couldn't help but roast him. Isn't this guy just bored out of his mind? Although the altar's number was quite low, meaning it might have good loot. Time is invisible and intangible. You really couldn't think of any sacrifice that would fit the requirement. You had no choice but to leave and look for other altars. As you continued deeper into the outskirts, you discovered another mysterious altar woven from spider silk. Altar number 37, 1112. Linked coordinates. Demon Spider Den. A demon spider mother who lost her singing voice. Her child cries every night because of nightmares. She wants to sing the demon spider lullaby once more to comfort her child. After reading the requirement, your head was spinning. You can't even hum a full human lullaby, let alone a demon spider's. Thinking of this, you turned and left helplessly. Hitting a wall twice in a row made you a bit anxious. Just as you were about to give up on this area, a faint glow at a bus station caught your eye. You walked quickly toward the light. An altar built entirely out of matches appeared. Just standing nearby, you were overwhelmed by a feeling of sadness. You immediately activated the Eye of Truth. Altar number 23, 1333. Linked coordinates. The Withered Street Corner. Amidst a blizzard, a little match girl feels unprecedented confusion and sorrow, because she cannot understand why the people passing by no longer need the matches in her hand. After reading the description, you were in disbelief. This familiar character setting and tragic atmosphere, isn't this the little match girl? Even fairy tales have become a separate plane. Shock aside, this altar might actually be the real deal. After thinking it over, you pulled out the lighter you just bought and placed it upon this altar made of matches. Times are changing. If you don't catch the trend, how can you sell matches? As soon as you spoke, a hum echoed from deep within the altar. Then a pillar of purple light erupted from the center. It's coming! You stared intently at the altar's reward. There, a palm-sized matchbox floated. Huh? That's it? Seeing the item, your head was filled with question marks, but you still stepped forward quickly to grab it. An uneasy feeling surfaced. Name, Matchbox of Hope. Quality, epic. Every day at 5 a.m., it automatically generates 5 matches of hope. After reading the description, you fell silent. An epic item and it's just 5 crappy matches? With a might-as-well-try attitude, you took all the matches out in your hand. Name, Match of Hope. Quality, common. When lit, it is extremely warm and bright, and very difficult to be extinguished by wind or water. It can also deal extra burning damage to calamity targets. Damaging calamities is actually kind of interesting. Maybe it'll come in handy against a black light monster, but only having 5 is still a bit lackluster. Just as you were about to put the matchbox into the dimensional warehouse, bolt of lightning flashed through your mind. The individual matches are common quality. If you sacrifice all of them to the Crimson Throne, wouldn't that mean you can get 5 free bottles of essence blood every single day? Thinking of this, you could no longer suppress your inner fanaticism. Verification. Must verify immediately. You instantly sprinted toward the slaughterhouse. 20 minutes later, you rushed back and impatiently approached the Crimson Throne, placing 1 match in the center. You held your breath and stared at the altar. The next second, a familiar scene appeared. A dark red small bottle, the essence blood, had officially formed. You were ecstatic. The Matchbox of Hope plus the Crimson Throne. This combo is a total cheat code. 0 risk, yet it brings continuous, insane returns. After sacrificing all the remaining matches, you finally had 5 bottles of essence blood on you. After drinking them all, you felt your blood boiling and your whole body burning up. A few minutes later, you finally adapted to the new strength. Then you checked your phone. Only 2 hours left before the day ends. The remaining 2 sacrifice attempts can't go to waste. The image of that eternal clock surfaced in your mind again. The altar's ID was low, and it had a time attribute. Its rewards definitely wouldn't be weak. But what on earth could serve as a sacrifice? Thinking of this, you scanned your surroundings, your gaze stopping on an old desk calendar. Your father had brought this back from his company before he passed away. You never had the heart to throw it out. The calendar was filled with all sorts of markings. The most prominent was June 7th, a page with a black circle. That was the day your parents died in a car accident, and the time you go to pay your respects every year. Flipping further, September 15th was the day you and Jia Weiwei got together. December 24th was Jia Weiwei's birthday. There were many other marks: paydays, credit card dues, classmates' weddings, and rent deadlines. These marks, some good, some bad, carved out a timeline that belonged solely to you. At this moment, the idea for the clock altar became clearer and clearer. The time he created was perfect, without any deviation. So there were no surprises, no accidents, and definitely no joy or pain. It was like a dead world. But this calendar was different. It carried the trajectory of a person's life. The time within it was complex, chaotic, and full of uncertainty, so that kind of time is alive. And what that altar needed wasn't more advanced technology, but a different kind of experience with time. Thinking of this, you headed straight for the clock altar. When you stood before the altar once again, you took out the calendar and placed it solemnly in the center. Perfect time has no vitality. Only time filled with regrets and records of an imperfect life is truly alive. How do you like this change? As soon as you spoke, the calendar vanished. Time seemed to freeze. The surroundings fell dead silent. Suddenly, a golden light erupted like wildfire. The entire abandoned building was illuminated as if it were midday. Countless fragments of life, like an out-of-control revolving lantern, flashed rapidly before your eyes. At the same time, an ancient-looking pocket watch emerged in the center of the altar. You quickly activated the Eye of Truth. Pocket Watch of Fate. Quality: legendary. Passive ability: grants an extremely sharp intuition regarding upcoming changes in the surroundings, allowing the holder to possess reaction speeds and judgment far beyond ordinary people. Reading the description, you frowned. What use was this? But the moment you gripped the watch in your hand, a mysterious sensation washed over you. You realized how ignorant you had been. This watch didn't provide raw power or speed, but rather mechanics and awareness. It allowed your superhuman vitality and strength to be utilized perfectly. To be safe, you quickly put the pocket watch of fate into the dimensional warehouse. However, you found that the resonance with the world did not weaken. Instead, the effect remained active. If you encountered another ambush in the future, you wouldn't even need to use any trump cards to easily pull off a counterkill. You checked the time again, 10:40 p.m. Only a little over an hour left before the altars refreshed, and you had one last sacrifice attempt. However, after scouring the area, you only found two useless altars. One linked to a swamp where giant mosquitoes lived, and the other linked to a dung beetle paradise. Suddenly, faint shouting and cursing came from a distance. There were actually people here. Instantly alert, you crouched low and sneaked over. In an open-air cargo yard, two groups of people were in a standoff. Next to them stood an altar emitting a faint pink glow, shaped like a delicate jade hand. Your heart hammered against your chest. Just by looking at it, you knew it wasn't simple. You activated the Eye of Truth to take a look. Altar number 9269. Linked coordinates: Succubus Palace of Bliss. A battle-hardened succubus queen who has grown utterly numb to ordinary pleasures. She craves a physiological stimulus that can shock the soul. You gasped. The altar number was quite low, but the description seemed a bit sus. But when you reflexively felt around in your backpack, you suddenly remembered an item inside. Isn't this just professionally tailored for me? Right then, the situation on the field changed. One side was a bald guy with a thick gold chain, followed by a dozen thugs. The other side had only 4 people, led by a tall woman with a smoking hot figure. The bald thug stepped forward with a sinister grin. "Don't do this the hard way. How dare you snatch our brother's loot? Hand it over now and cough up some more treasures and maybe we'll let you live." However, the girl opposite them remained unmoved. She simply spat out one cold word: "Beat it." The bald guy instantly flew into a rage. "Brothers, get them!" As the dozen thugs charged forward with strange cries, the 4 on the girl's side instantly formed a defensive formation. The girl lunged into the thugs with her dagger while the others showed off their strength. One power-type hunk swung a steel pipe with a whistling wind, while the other 2 specialized in low blows. Seeing the thugs being pushed back, the bald leader grew furious and delivered a full-power kick to the power hunk. The hunk was instantly kicked until he was covered in blood, flying back 2 or 3 meters. His entry instantly broke the balance, and the situation spiraled downward. The woman's companions were slashed to the ground one by one. Soon, the bald guy had the girl cornered against a container. She didn't submit. Instead, a trace of ruthlessness flashed in her eyes. "Go to hell!" The bald guy sensed something was wrong and tried to retreat, but the girl directly crushed a fleshy orb. Black mist instantly swept the field, and a monster over 3 meters tall stepped out. "Holy crap, a black light monster!" The thugs were all scared witless. But then, an even more terrifying scene occurred. The moment the monster appeared, it actually turned around and immediately ripped the hunk closest to it into 2 halves. The bald thug's heart nearly stopped at the sight. "Psycho! This woman is a complete psycho! She even kills her own people!" The thugs scattered and fled, but the monster had already started a one-sided slaughter. Watching from the side, your heart skipped a beat. This girl was indeed a ruthless one. To escape, she was willing to drag everyone to hell. She's a walking time bomb. In a matter of moments, only the bald thug was left desperately running for his life. But the monster simply leaped and pinned the bald guy beneath it. A few minutes later, the clearing became a purgatory. The thugs and the girl's companions were all corpses. After its feast, the monster didn't disappear. Instead, it continued to prowl around, searching for a target. The woman who summoned it was already hiding behind a pillar, not even daring to breathe. You frowned and checked the time, 11:50 p.m. You couldn't wait any longer. Otherwise, today's last chance would be wasted right here. Taking a deep breath to steady yourself, you channeled your blood energy and charged toward that insane woman.
Die!
Behind the pillar, the woman sensed something was wrong immediately. But she didn't choose to run. Instead, she gripped her dagger and counterattacked fiercely. She aimed at an extremely tricky angle, stabbing straight for your heart. In the past, it would have been difficult for you to dodge this strike. But now, with the buff from the essence blood and the pocket watch, the trajectory of her attack was laughably clear. You could even predict her next move after you dodged. You tilted your body slightly to avoid the strike, and before she could even counter, you slashed her arm with one strike, then followed up with a slash to her other hand. Both of the woman's hands were instantly disabled. She began screaming and begging for mercy. "We can talk this out. Have some mercy on a lady, big bro." But your gaze remained ice-cold without a shred of pity. Once you make a move, you have to pull the weeds by the roots. Your fruit knife went straight for her throat. This strike was impossible to dodge. However, the moment the blade was about to touch the woman's neck, she shrieked, and with a bang, she exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Your blade hit nothing but air. As the mist dissipated, the woman had vanished without a trace. You were shocked? She actually didn't die? She freaking escaped right in front of me. What kind of creepy ability is that? You thought for sure you could take her down tonight. It turns out the water in this world is terrifyingly deep. You'd never heard of such a life-saving trick. Still, she probably wouldn't dare come back anytime soon. Right then, a roar mixed with the sound of rushing wind pulled you back to reality. The black light monster had spotted you. Just as its claws were about to shred you, you stepped back slightly and dodged the attack. Taking advantage of the monster's recovery frames after the missed swing, you used the fruit knife to open a gash on its leg. The monster howled in pain and counterattacked, but in your eyes, its movements were like slow motion. The predictive power of the pocket watch of fate was too OP. In just a few rounds, you used your movement and speed advantage to leave it covered in wounds, though you still couldn't find its fatal weakness. While kiting it, you activated the Eye of Truth. You saw a red light flickering at the back of the monster's head. There! You found an opening and feigned a stumble, making the monster think it had a chance. The moment it lunged to bite you, you used the light leggings to leap high and plunge the knife into the back of its head with all your might. Its massive body crashed to the ground. You let out a long sigh of relief, finally dealt with. Without wasting a second, you pulled the dragon egg out of the dimensional warehouse. Dinner time, baby. You placed it right next to the monster's corpse. The dragon egg seemed to come alive as the pool of blood on the ground vanished at a visible rate. Even the monster's corpse withered up in moments. Small text appeared on the egg. Hatching progress, 2%. You were pumped. The cultivation route was definitely the right way to go. You were ecstatic. You moved the egg to where the two groups had been fighting. Soon the egg had sucked up all the blood. A few light orbs had also dropped near the bodies. You did a quick scan and saw nothing special, so you tossed them all into the dimensional warehouse. You'd convert them all to essence blood when you got back. This run was a massive haul. After finishing up, you focused your gaze on the seductive succubus altar. A succubus queen craving stimulation, huh? Time to feel the charm of icy hot. You pulled out the cooling oil and placed it directly on the altar. Instantly, the two jade hands seemed to come alive, and a purple light rapidly enveloped you. You thought with that level of stimulation, at the very least, you'd trigger a red mythic light. Unexpectedly, it was only a purple light. Seems like this queen usually plays way too hard. But in the next second, things took a turn. The purple energy didn't dissipate. Instead, it converged into a humanoid shape on the altar. A blurry figure slowly emerged. You instinctively gripped your knife, but to your surprise, it was the silhouette of a woman with a perfect body. On her head grew a pair of delicate small demon horns, and a tail with a heart-shaped tip behind her was swaying gently. It was a living succubus. Her hazy eyes landed on your body. "Man, you have successfully pleased me. As a reward, I shall grant you a chance to realize any wish." The succubus's voice made your throat go dry. Your blood began to flow uncontrollably toward a certain place. Holy crap, I actually pulled a hidden waifu drop. However, in this peak romantic atmosphere, an extremely discordant hum rang out. The dragon egg nearby suddenly shook violently. Before you could react, an indescribable and terrifying suction force erupted from the black egg. The succubus that had just materialized froze. She felt the threat of death. That suction force was completely unreasonable. It dragged her over directly. The moment she touched the dragon egg, he actually turned into pure purple energy and was swallowed by the egg. Dead silence followed. You were petrified on the spot, your mind going blank. What happened? Where's my epic tier waifu? The dragon egg on the ground seemed to let out a burp, then slowly flew back into your arms. Your hands trembled as you held it, because the text on the egg was skyrocketing. The hatching progress had surged to 41%. The energy of an epic succubus is actually this high? At the same time, you noticed the dragon egg was glowing with a purple light, and a few small heart markings appeared on it. The abyssal magic dragon combined with heart marks. The dragon egg restlessly rubbed against you. You knew your succubus waifu wasn't coming back. You poked the shell viciously. You better hatch into a top-tier beauty to compensate me. Just then, lightning flashed in the sky. The gray rain had arrived. You ducked under a nearby eave. All traces of the earlier fight rapidly disappeared. Then you began to review the previous battle. That woman's escape made you feel uneasy, like a venomous snake hiding in the dark. You decided to enter a 3-story building, hoping to catch her off guard and strike back, completely eliminating this hidden threat. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the Dragon Country Bureau of Supernatural Affairs, a researcher in a white coat rushed in. "General, good news! We've cracked the secret of the gray rain." General Lee looked up in disbelief. "Let's hear it." Professor Joe took a deep breath. "We analyzed the unknown active substances in the rainwater. It's harmless to humans, but it temporarily nullifies supernatural powers." "What?" General Lee was stunned. In the command center, all the high-ranking officials wore looks of total disbelief. Professor Joe was shouting with excitement. "This effect lasts until the gray rain completely evaporates. Only then will abilities recover. This means that between 0 o'clock and 5 o'clock a.m., those players who think they're powerful will be reverted to their original forms as soon as they touch the rain, becoming ordinary humans." General Lee's eyes gleamed. "If this is truly the case, then we can take advantage of the rainy nights to conduct arrests on those players who have spiraled out of control." Professor Joe then added a supplement. "This rainwater cannot be stored. However, if we can extract the active substances within it, we could create suppressors or high-pressure water cannons. If we truly succeed, this will be the sharpest weapon in our hands." Inside the abandoned small building, you were browsing the forums while waiting for that woman. But suddenly a post flashed by. "Shocking secret. Do not go out when it rains. You will turn back into a mortal." When you instinctively clicked on it, you found the post had already been deleted. You immediately realized this might have been intentionally taken down. If this news is true, does it mean that in the rain that crazy woman wouldn't be able to turn into blood mist to escape? But then a wave of unease surfaced. Would I also be affected like that? If I turn back into a mortal, how the hell am I supposed to hunt? Suddenly you remembered the essence blood obtained from the Crimson Throne. The description said permanent stat buff. This meant it wasn't a temporary buff or equipment. It was your own inherent power. Even if the rain can force someone to take off their armor, it shouldn't be able to dissolve their muscles, right? Also, the dimensional warehouse is an independent space, so it shouldn't be contaminated. And the pocket watch of fate is inside the warehouse. Therefore, my sensory miracle should not be affected. Under the gray rain, while everyone else is nerfed into weaklings, your level of debuff is negligible. Wouldn't that make you the only god in the rainy night? Thinking of this, your heart nearly jumped out. Verification. Must verify immediately. At this moment, you stood in the gray rain that everyone else feared. The smile on your face was harder to suppress than an AK's recoil. This rain can clearly format all superpowers, yet it cannot affect the physical enhancement provided by the essence blood. When all other superhumans are nerfed into weaklings, you are the only god in this rainy night. That woman who had witnessed your terrifying abilities had just used her blood escape to return to her villa. Several men in black clothes saw her in this state and immediately fell into a panic. A butler also came jogging over. "Miss! How did you get injured like this? Where are the men who were with you?" Yan Ruoxue's eyes were filled with terror. "They're all gone. Even I was almost killed by that man. He is terrifyingly strong." She then immediately had the butler find an artist, desperately wanting to have your appearance sketched out. On the other side, you had just returned to the slaughterhouse and tossed the collected white tier items into the Crimson Throne. These items would all be useless in the gray rain, so it was better to turn them all into essence blood to strengthen yourself. After drinking all 4 bottles of essence blood you obtained, you went back into the room and crashed. At 5 a.m. you woke up right on time. Last night you had already touched base with the livestock farm owner. The first batch of chickens was delivered this morning. You turned into a cold, ruthless machine and started processing them. Once all 500 chickens were finished, the dragon eggs hatching progress reached 42.3%. So 500 chickens only gave 1.3%? This thing is a total resource sink. Thus, you decided to change your strategy. The arrival of the altars was crushing physical industries. The farm owner was anxious because poultry was hard to liquidate. So, as long as you could quickly turn the poultry into semi-finished products and let them find their own sales channels, you'd only take a processing fee while letting the egg absorb the blood. You then called the farm owner and explained your idea plainly. You both hit it off immediately. In the afternoon, Boss Wang sent another 500 chickens. He even wanted to bring over chickens from his competitors. You knew he wanted to play the middleman and pocket the price difference. But until the dragon egg hatched, you actually wished he could provide even more supply. After seeing Boss Wang off, the Flesh and Blood workshop started up again. This time you didn't chase efficiency like you did in the morning. Instead, you chose to control the angle and force of every kill. This was a special kind of training. You could feel yourself becoming one with the blade. This repetitive labor made your control over your strength increasingly proficient. When night fell, the dragon egg's hatching progress reached 43.6%. You grabbed your bag and headed out. Nighttime is the prime time for sacrifices. On the other side of the city, Jia Weiwei and her boyfriend, Zhang Yang, arrived at the Nightfall Bar. They found a man calling himself Brother Long. After paying a 500,000 yuan referral fee, Brother Long gave them a secret location. Soon, Xia Weiwei and Zhang Yang drove off to the destination. Zhang Yang was beyond excited on the road. Once we join Tiansheng's biggest black camp organization, we'll be able to walk tall in this city. Your loser ex-boyfriend and all those other nobodies won't dare mess with us ever again. A hint of anticipation flashed in Xia Weiwei's eyes. That loser! Who knows where he's starving right now? He actually dared to block me. He hasn't replied to a single message in days. Elsewhere you sneezed while on your way to find an altar. You had just experienced a dark moment in your life. You only managed to pull a blue-tier item from an altar, Windrunner boots. While this item can significantly boost movement speed, it becomes useless in the rainy night. Better to sacrifice it to the Crimson Throne later and see what quality of essence blood it gives. Around 11 p.m. you noticed something glowing by the small river. As you approached, you discovered this is an altar where the left and right sides are different. On the left side of the altar is a fire phoenix emitting a red glow. On the right side stands a heavy, dull sword. You quickly activated the Eye of Truth, only to discover that the two altars were actually linked together. A faint strand of energy maintained the connection between them. To think that twin altars actually exist, you grew more shocked the more you looked, because both altars had significant backgrounds. Fire Phoenix Altar, number 7766. Linked coordinates, 9 Heavens Immortal Realm. The pride of her clan, Nalan Ranran is currently troubled. 3 years ago, her fiancé Xiao Huohuo's cultivation regressed, leading the clan elders to pressure her to break the engagement. She stands at a crossroads, not knowing where to go. And the altar on the right was equally insane. Altar number 6677. Linked coordinates, 9 Heavens Immortal Prison. The genius youth Xiao Huohuo, due to his cultivation mysteriously stagnating, fell from grace and became a loser despised by everyone. He longs to break the deadlock but has no one to help him. After seeing the info, your heart raced uncontrollably. It's actually Nalan Ranran and Xiao Huohuo. I know exactly how this story goes. As the mastermind behind the scenes, what should I do now? If I don't let Nalan Ranran break the engagement, Xiao Huohuo might not be able to activate his cheat code in a desperate situation. I wouldn't get any rewards either. So I must follow the plot and fan the flames at the critical moment. Even if Nalan Ranran isn't heartless, she's being coerced by her clan to end the marriage. Let this breakup be even more intense. Pushing Xiao Huohuo to a dead end is the only way to maximize the rewards. You quickly took out a pen and paper to egg Nalan Ranran on. How can a phoenix dwell with a common sparrow? The path of cultivation is rugged and steep. He can no longer keep up with your footsteps. If you wish to reach the peak, you must first cut your ties. You then placed the paper into the phoenix altar. Instantly, the altar emitted a soft suction force. The paper vanished. A projection screen suddenly surfaced on the altar. Nalan Ranran was seen sobbing uncontrollably, tightly clutching a token of love from Xiao Huohuo. From outside the door came the cold urge of the clan elders. Ranran, don't be stubborn. The decision has been made. The Xiao family is no longer worthy of an alliance with the Nalan family. Hearing this, she gritted her teeth. At that moment, A red feather flew in through the window, landing in her hand and turning into a piece of paper. After reading the content, her body trembled. She murmured to herself, "How can a phoenix dwell with a common sparrow?" The confusion in her eyes instantly vanished, and the phoenix bloodline within her began to boil. She casually crushed the jade pendant and headed to the Shao family with the Great Elder without looking back. When the projection on the altar vanished, you had become the mastermind fanning the flames of the broken engagement. However, the altar's reward did not appear. Does it require results from both sides first? You then turned to look at that heavy sword altar. Once again, you picked up the pen and wrote down a message. A fallen tiger does not bow. Wait for the wind to rise and roar across the mountains. Don't look down on a youth just because he's poor. Don't look down on a youth just because he's poor? After finishing the writing, you felt a rush of adrenaline surge straight to your head. Then you slapped the note onto the altar. Following a loud boom, the karmic projection this time was far more intense than before. Inside the Shao family hall, the atmosphere was suffocating. Nalan Ranran's expression was ice cold. Even the elder behind her was full of disdain. The Nalan family has decided to break the engagement with your Shao family today. A toad trying to eat swan meat. Don't even think about hindering our Saintess's future anymore. The crowd's mockery made Xiao Huohuo clench his fists as boundless humiliation flooded his heart. He looked at Nalan Ranran, whose eyes were filled with resolve. Fine! Then today I shall be the one to divorce you. From now on, we are strangers. Afterward, Xiao Huohuo roared at the sky on the back mountain. Just as he was about to break down, the note carrying your will fluttered down, slapping right onto his face. He was stunned for a moment and unfolded the paper. The peak Chunibu lines entered his sight. 30 years east, 30 years west. Don't look down on a youth just because he's poor. Xiao Huohuo's body trembled violently, and the flame in his heart that was about to go out suddenly exploded. My fate is mine to control, not the heavens. I, Xiao Huohuo, will never sink like this. Just as this powerful conviction erupted to its peak, black ring on his right hand emitted a brilliant light. An aura that had been slumbering for ages awakened from within. Little fellow, you've suffered these past few years. The projection outside shattered completely at this moment. Simultaneously, a wave of energy spanning across space-time crashed onto the altar. You didn't expect the feedback to be this earth-shattering. What quality of reward would this be? You stared dead at the altar. Suddenly, the phoenix altar on the left shot out a pillar of black light. A terrifying aura erupted from it, containing extreme rage and resentment. Holy crap! It's a black light. I'm screwed, gotta get out of here. Just then, the heavy sword altar on the right also erupted with a pillar of energy. A blinding red light instantly illuminated the entire sky. Seeing this, you froze in your tracks. A red mythic reward? Why the hell should I run? Right now, looking at the feedback from both altars, your scalp went numb. One was emitting a soaring black light, while the other was emitting a red light. That would drive anyone insane. You immediately decided not to flee. You turned around and ran toward the heavy sword altar, grabbing the item appearing in the red light. A dagger radiating black energy. At the same time, the ground beneath your feet shook violently. A figure emerged from the black light altar. Her face was 70% similar to Nalan Ranran's, but her demeanor was utterly deranged, and her voice was filled with resentment. He lost him because of you. You hurriedly activated the Eye of Truth. Nalan Ranran's inner demon, Wraith. Quality, epic. A distorted karmic manifestation of resentment, calamity. Possesses the same bloodline as Nalan Ranran, paranoid and insane. You immediately wanted to grease your feet and bolt, but the manifestation chased you down. A powerful force instantly slammed into your chest. Even with a body as tough as a Vajra, you were hit hard enough to cough up a mouthful of blood. You were shocked to the core. Holy crap, how am I supposed to play this? The Wraith arrived in a flash, aiming straight for your throat. The pocket watch of fate was sounding a frantic alarm. You immediately backleaped to dodge and stabbed back at the Wraith. Just when you thought the dagger wouldn't be able to pierce her defense. Unexpectedly, it pierced right in without any resistance. Your eyes immediately lit up. Looks like this dagger is something special. The Wraith recoiled in pain, no longer daring to get close. She then hurled a ball of black flame at you. You barely avoided it with a roll and prepared to go on the offensive. Since the dagger could breach her defense, killing her wasn't impossible. You then activated the Eye of Truth. A purple light flickered on the Wraith's abdomen. That was her weak point. You lunged forward, stabbing directly at her stomach. The wraith blocked immediately, while one of her hands quickly clawed at you. You instantly changed the dagger's direction, ripping a gash across her abdomen with a slash sound. But your left arm was also badly wounded by her sharp claws. The light on the wraith's abdomen dimmed significantly. Next, the two of you began a brutal head-on clash. After you deepened the wound on her abdomen once more, you were also violently sent flying back by her strike. As you struggled to get up, you felt like your spine was about to snap. The wraith's abdominal light source was also getting dimmer and dimmer. She pressed her hands together, gathering all her resentment to form a giant blade that cleaved toward you. But this was exactly the chance you were waiting for. You immediately threw out an admission ticket to the fourth realm. The wraith's giant blade instantly disintegrated. Confusion and regret appeared on her face. Exploding with your maximum speed, you stabbed at the wraith's abdomen again and again. Finally, her body crashed down. The battle was over. Your body was covered in wounds, and your left arm and ribs were all broken. But even so, you didn't forget the dragon egg. After taking it out, you hurriedly directed it to suck up the black blood on the ground. Its hatching progress kept climbing until it finally stopped at 49.6%. At the same time, your eye of truth caught something odd. The lingering resentment in the air didn't vanish. Instead, it all gathered into the black dagger. You just realized you hadn't checked its stats yet. As the eye of truth activated, the dagger's info appeared before your eyes. Primal soul render. Growth, 97 points. Quality, growth type mythic. Can nourish itself by devouring souls, resentment, and fear. The holder gains massive resistance against mental pollution. A flash of joy crossed your eyes. Another mythic item, and it can resist mental attacks. Exactly what you lack most right now. After all, while Essence Blood can buff your raw stats to the max, if you get CC'd into an idiot, even the most OP stats can be slowly whittled away. This dagger filled that exact gap. After resting, you recovered a bit of strength. Checking your phone. 11:45 p.m. Dragging your battered body, you limped toward the slaughterhouse. At the same time, 3 off-road vehicles were speeding toward this location. In the passenger seat, Qin Feng's face was grim. They had been driven half crazy these past 2 days. First, the terrifying red light in the city center, then the golden light at the abandoned factory. To think that a soaring red light would appear again, this time in the western suburbs. This time they had to find some clues. However, Ling Wan's voice beside him was trembling. "Captain, it's already 11:50 p.m. If we don't reach the scene before midnight, all traces of battle and energy residue will be washed clean." When the convoy arrived at the location, there was only a mess before them. Clear battle marks were etched into the ground. Not far away lay a body that looked neither human nor ghost. Qin Feng immediately ordered the team to start gathering clues, while directing Ling Wan to use energy retrocession. Ling Wan stepped forward quickly, pressed her hands together, and closed her eyes as a soft blue light spread outward. Just as the images were about to appear, her body suddenly jolted, and she coughed up a mouthful of blood. She fainted and fell backward. Qin Feng was shocked and caught her instantly. Meanwhile, scattered raindrops began to fall, and a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. Midnight had arrived. All clues were once again washed clean by the gray rain. The altars and the blood on the ground all vanished. At that moment, a team member rushed over to report. "We managed to collect a few drops of blood." Seeing this, Qin Feng gritted his teeth. He immediately sent out a high-priority notice for the entire team to work overtime tonight. On the other side, you finally made it back to the slaughterhouse. Your injuries made the trip take a full 2 hours. The first thing you did after returning was directly sacrifice the Windrunner boots to the Crimson Throne. A brand new bottle appeared. Essence Blood. Quality excellent. After absorption, it significantly boosts total blood energy. Permanent stat buff. Seeing the words significantly boost, you felt a surge of anticipation and downed it in one go. Unexpectedly, your body began to tremble violently. You felt a surge of power racing through you. Bones and wounds began to knit back together at a frantic pace. This excellent tier Essence Blood really is the best life-saving medicine. After a moment, your wounds began to scab over. Then you pulled out the dagger once more. Tonight's battle had created a bond between you and this weapon. Starting tomorrow, you have to keep processing chickens. Furthermore, every chicken you kill from now on will improve your striking technique. The dragon egg progress and the dagger's growth. A true trinity achieving a perfect loop. Early the next morning, you found that your wounds were basically healed. Next, you took out 5 brand new matches and sacrificed them. After drinking the 4 bottles of essence blood you obtained, you called Boss Wang from the livestock farm. You told him to bring every bit of inventory he currently had. Soon, 1,200 chickens were delivered. You pulled out the soul render and began your training. After a whole morning of processing, the soul render's growth reached 197 points. The dragon egg also grew a bit, finally reaching 54% hatching progress. Right then, the dragon egg finally showed some movement. A small crack appeared on the shell and a fluffy tail poked out, and at the tip of the tail was that familiar heart shape. Wasn't the tail of the succubus that got devoured exactly like this? Nice, nice. It wasn't a waste raising this dragon egg after all. You better hatch into a little dragon girl. Elsewhere, Yan Ruoshui and her group arrived at the abandoned cargo yard. Walking beside her was none other than Jia Weiwei. It turns out Jia Weiwei had used her insane luck to successfully become a core member of the underground organization, Black Shadow. Suddenly, Jia Weiwei asked with some doubt, "In such a remote place, is there really a top-tier expert like you said?" And Ruoshui turned her head, gave her a cold sideways glance. "Don't think you can run your mouth just because you're lucky. That man is strong. He could crush a piece of trash like you with one finger." If the informant hadn't said red light appeared here last night, she wouldn't have dared risk coming here. Not far away, atop an abandoned building, a figure silently watched Yan Ruoshui and the others. Reporting to the Bureau, suspicious targets spotted at the western suburb cargo yard. Inside the Zhangzhou Supernatural Affairs Bureau, when Qin Feng heard the news, a trace of joy appeared on his gloomy face. Finally, a lead! After obtaining mythic tier items like the dragon egg and the dagger, you completed the slaughter of 1,000 chickens in a single morning. The progress for both the soul render and the dragon egg skyrocketed. In a great mood, you prepared to head back into the city to find sacrifice opportunities. However, just as you stepped onto a bustling pedestrian street, you heard a piercing and desperate howl. A middle-aged man was seen hugging an empty box and wailing, "My wife left me and my daughter won't recognize me. What's the point of living?" A nearby security captain looked disgusted. "You think this place is a wishing well? When you were acting like a degenerate gambler, why didn't you think about the consequences?" The surrounding crowd was all whispering and gossiping about the man. From their discussions, you understood the whole story. Turns out the man sold his house to buy a jade thumb ring, all for today's sacrifice. In the end, the altar only gave back a useless wooden stick. You shifted your gaze to the altar that caused this tragedy. Its design was unique, shining with golden light. No wonder it could make a man willing to bet everything on it. Then you directly activated the Eye of Truth. Altar number 17,626. Linked coordinates, abandoned vault of the Emperor's scripture. An Emperor's scripture collector who is bored of gold and jewelry. He craves the world's most advanced technological creations. Seeing the description, he couldn't help but smirk. The jade ring the man bought with his life savings was given to someone who likes tech. This ending was rigged from the start. At this moment, the security captain signaled his men to drag the man away. Suddenly, an arrogant voice pierced through the crowd. "Wait!" A very seductive figure walked over. It was none other than Jia Weiwei. Currently, she held her chin high, enjoying the greedy gazes of the people around her. She glanced at the middle-aged man. "If you die, you truly have nothing left. Do you want to get back everything you lost?" A spark of hope instantly ignited in the man's eyes. "Yes! I do. I'll do anything you ask. If you want to have sacrifices to gamble with every day, then follow me." Jia Weiwei snapped her fingers, and several bodyguards behind her immediately picked the middle-aged man up. The surrounding crowd was shocked. Is this beauty here for charity? Weren't rich heirs supposed to be the ones sponsoring girls? Why is this plot reversed? Outside the crowd, 2 thugs heard the chatter and sneered. "You idiots don't know anything. This is called ranching. Although many don't have money for sacrifices, some people have more money than they know what to do with. But unfortunately, the number of sacrifice attempts is limited. That's where these ranched losers come in handy. Every item they get from sacrificing must be handed over. If they pull something good, they get gourmet food and luxury. If they fail to pull anything good consecutively, they stay until they are completely wasted, their last bit of value squeezed out. It's what people call a human slot machine. You heard everything clearly from the side. However, other people's fates had nothing to do with you. But just as you turned to leave, a voice came from behind. "You. Wait a minute." You recognized it as Jia Weiwei's voice. But you ignored it and kept walking. "Stop! Are you deaf? I told you to stop!" Instantly, several black-clothed bodyguards rushed up and surrounded you. Forced to stop, you slowly turned around. You saw a twisted sense of pleasure on her face. Ever since she clung to Black Shadow, the city's largest underground organization, consecutive green tier pulls had made her a rising star in the organization. But you were like a thorn stuck in her heart, a loser who actually dared to block and delete her. She didn't expect you to deliver yourself to her doorstep today. She crossed her arms and looked down at you mockingly. So you blocked me? Couldn't help but come looking for me? Regretting it now? Well, it's too late for regrets. Bursts of laughter and gossip immediately erupted from the crowd. Where'd this pretty boy come from? Sounds like he's an ex. A toad trying to eat swan meat, that's exactly what this is. However, your stomach was growling at that moment. You were in no mood to deal with Jia Weiwei. Seeing your indifferent look, Jia Weiwei finally snapped. Still acting, huh? Suddenly, she kicked off her right high heel. Then she publicly stripped off her black silk stocking. Don't you want to beg for my pity? Kneel down now and kiss my toes, and I might reward you with 20,000 as dog food money. Saying this, she pulled a thick stack of cash from her bag. The crowd began to jeer and cheer at the sight. This guy's lucky. Lick it, bro, lick it. Why is the goddess rewarding him? Can it be me instead? Filthy words and the sounds of people looking for trouble intertwined, finally snapping you out of your hunger. What is this woman blabbering about? Isn't she just delaying my trip to the food stalls? Seeing you unmoved, Jia Weiwei finally went ballistic. Kneel for me! But the moment she spoke, a loud slap rang out. The sound was so loud it instantly drowned out the surrounding noise. Jia Weiwei's pretty face was suddenly whipped back. A handprint appeared on her fair skin. Then you followed up with a backhand slap. The force was so great it sent her sprawling on the spot. Jia Weiwei clutched her face in disbelief. Seeing this, several bodyguards immediately charged at you. But after a few muffled thuds, they went flying back, screaming in pain. Then you walked up to the trembling Jia Weiwei and gave her a disdainful look. You? You're not even worthy. Then you simply turned and walked away. Everyone around was staring at you in a daze. At that moment, a man in the crowd immediately whipped out his phone. Reporting. Target Peacock had a violent conflict with someone on the pedestrian street. It turns out that ever since Yan Ruoshui and Jia Weiwei appeared at the abandoned yard, they had already been logged by the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs. Peacock was Jia Weiwei's code name. The secret agents were responsible for monitoring their every move. The man continued to report. The opponent seems to be her ex-boyfriend and possesses decent combat power. Taking out those bodyguards was child's play for him. In the bureau, Qin Feng heard the report and simply said, "Understood. Just a minor friction. Log it and keep observing." However, Ling Wan, who was studying data nearby, suddenly spoke up. Wait a second. She looked at the snapshot sent back from the scene. Though your figure was blurry, it made her feel like she had seen you somewhere before. Qin Feng instantly stopped what he was doing and looked over. Are you sure you've seen him? But no matter how Ling Wan tried to recall, she couldn't remember. Maybe the pressure has been too high lately. Qin Feng's eyes flickered as he stared at the screen. Assign 2 people to check him out. Jia Weiwei's ex-boyfriend being able to instantly drop several bodyguards means he must have obtained solid benefits from the altar. On the other side, you walked toward a familiar food stall. The place was as bustling as ever, filled with the lively atmosphere of street food. You found an empty seat and ordered a few of your favorite side dishes, then noticed a middle-aged man in his 40s walking toward you. He was clutching a red bag, weaving through the tables. After a moment, he walked up to a group of men drinking and playing finger-guessing games at the table next to yours. Excuse me, brothers. I have something here for you to check out. A blue-tier item I just pulled today. Blue tier? The men all froze for a second. The man took a blue and white porcelain teacup out of his bag. Curiously, they took the cup and inspected it one by one. They even used flashlights to examine it closely, but couldn't find any use for the cup. The bearded man waved his hand impatiently. Just tell us what it does and how much you want. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and held up 3 fingers. The usage isn't clear yet. Hearing this, the bearded man spat out his wine. 30,000? Are you crazy for money? You dare ask 30,000 for a broken cup with no known use? The middle-aged man wanted to explain, but was scolded until he couldn't even lift his head. At this moment, you took everything in. Then the Eye of Truth instantly activated, landing on that inconspicuous teacup. Cup of Serenity. Quality, excellent, can hold gray rain. Seeing the effect, you gasped. This is practically a god-tier item. After all, gray rain can format all superpowers, but it can't be stored normally. However, as long as you splash the stored gray rain just like that, you could directly neutralize a top-tier superpower. Big catch. I must buy it immediately. Seeing the man about to leave, you quickly called out to him. He ran over in a hurry. Boss, do you want to see my item? This really is a blue-tier item. The bearded man at the next table quickly warned, Little brother, don't be a fool. This guy is clearly an old scammer. You can't buy a real blue-tier item for just a few tens of thousands. Hearing this, you simply nodded with a smile, while gesturing for the man to sit down. Boss, add 2 more drumsticks and a large order of beef fried noodles. My wife here is a bit hungry, so add extra meat. The middle-aged man didn't expect that instead of chasing him away, you'd actually treat him to a meal. Although this young brother looks harmless, is he actually planning to harvest my kidneys? Once the steaming hot food was served, the middle-aged man began to scarf it down. Only after he finished did you speak up. I'll take the Celadon teacup. It turned out his name was Zhao Gong, formerly a senior investment analyst. But his daughter fell seriously ill, draining all their savings. Driven to a dead end, he brought the teacup out to sell. After settling the deal, you took him to withdraw cash. On the way, Zhao Gang held the cup uneasily. Little brother, do you really believe me? Hearing this, you paused. Uncle Zhao, it's not the cup I believe in, but the spirit of a father willing to give everything for his daughter. The most precious things in this world aren't those treasures, but the light in your eyes that hasn't gone out yet. He had endured too many cold glares and mocks on this journey. Your words were like warm sunshine. Little brother, I'll remember your kindness. I swear if I get the chance, I will definitely repay you. Soon you withdrew the money. When the heavy 30,000 yuan was placed in his hands, the man completely broke down. His hands trembled as he tried to kneel, but you caught and supported him. After leaving his contact information, he vanished into the crowd. Watching his departing figure, you thought of your own Crimson Throne. It requires massive amounts of trash items for feeding. You constantly convert them into essence blood to strengthen yourself. Therefore, you need to specifically acquire trash items that everyone else despises, and the person acquiring them must not betray you easily. This Zhao Gang might be useful in the future. Then you checked the time on your phone, 7:40 p.m. There are a final 4+ hours before the gray rain descends. Time to prepare for the sacrifice. But a sudden commotion broke out in the square ahead. What's wrong with the moon? The originally bright moon was suddenly shrouded in a layer of blood red. Within seconds, it turned into a full blood moon. Your heart skipped a beat. Anyone who plays games knows a blood moon means ominous curses and cataclysms. What on earth is going on? Unease and oppression began to spread through the crowd. Every person's face was stained with an eerie crimson hue. You quickly pulled out your phone and opened the forum. It was filled with theories about the blood moon. It's over. It's over. I have a bad feeling something big happens tonight. Bold prediction. Drop rates for good items doubled during the blood moon. Gamba addicts, charge! So what exactly is the impact of this blood moon? You looked at a nearby altar. It looked like a rusted vending machine, but under the influence of the blood moon, it began to turn creepy. You hurriedly activated the Eye of Truth. Altar number 20247. Linked coordinates, mechanical wasteland. A mechanical vending machine wandering the wastes. Likes collecting various currencies. Blood moon. Influence. 10 sacrifice attempts remaining. At that moment, a gambler took the last coin on him and tossed it directly into the altar. In an instant, the coin vanished. The sacrifice counter at the bottom decreased by 1. But what was even creepier was that the returned item didn't emit any light. Instead, it was covered in a layer of bloodstain, even with people standing right next to it. No one could see what was actually inside. Your heart started racing. After being shrouded by the blood moon, the sacrifice attempts became limited, and the process no longer gave off a colored glow. What the item actually is, only the person sacrificing would know. This was a godsend opportunity for you. Even if you pulled 3 reds in a row in the middle of the street, Others would just think you got trash. I need to hurry and find more altars. Soon you completed 2 more sacrifices, but the results were somewhat disappointing. One gave a blue-quality common sword. Though it could cut through iron like butter, you're a man with a mythic tier soul render. This sword is just a snack for the Crimson Throne. The other altar gave you a purple-quality shoulder guard. Savage Beast's Rage. Equipping it grants an active skill that triggers berserk strength for a short time, followed by a long period of weakness. Looks like turning into Essence Blood is its only destiny. I wonder what epic tier Essence Blood tastes like. Finally, you spotted another altar at a street corner. Eye of Truth, activate! Altar number 1050. Linked coordinates, Lost Sea of Stars. An ancient stargazer lost at the edge of the galaxy. All the light he spent his life chasing has gone out. He longs to see the light of hope once more. Remaining attempts, 7. Seeing the requirement, you immediately thought of the matches of hope, but today's matches had already been sacrificed to the Crimson Throne. Ordinary matches and lighters lacked the will of hope. Then you searched your entire body. You only found the receipt printed when you withdrew money from the ATM. To Zhao Gong. This slip represented his daughter's hope for survival and was proof of a stranger's helping hand. Doesn't this represent the never-extinguishing light of humanity? Holding on to a worth-a-shot mindset, you placed the receipt in the center of the altar. Unexpectedly, a sigh full of comfort echoed in your ears. Then, a plain-looking 5-pointed star appeared in the altar. Eye of Truth, activate. Name, Star of Hope. Quality, legendary. Single-use consumable. Automatically triggers upon death. Reshapes the holder's flesh and soul for a full-stat resurrection. Your eyes widened instantly. Holy crap, it's a resurrection coin. This is the ultimate trump card. Its value is far beyond common sense. You stored the Star of Hope in your dimensional space and started picking up the pace to get back. On the way home, you browsed the forums and noticed something was off. A popular altar near us just exploded after being sacrificed to several times in a row. A blurry photo was attached below. The once intact altar was now just a pile of rubble. The comment section exploded. WTF? Altars can actually break? Someone here has been tracking it. It seems they break after 10 sacrifices. Well, out with the old, in with the new. Destroy all the altars, maybe better ones will appear. The two factions were arguing to no end. The authorities hadn't responded at all. Looks like even the higher-ups were caught off guard by this sudden turn of events. This all proves that the blood moon is definitely no joke, because whether the destruction of the altars is a blessing or a curse remains unknown. You need to turn the gear you just got into actual raw power. On the way back, you saw several altars with no people. Their sacrifice counts were still at 10. As expected, there aren't many people in the suburbs. Just as you returned to the slaughterhouse, you immediately took that blue-tier sword and sacrificed it to the Crimson Throne. After downing the excellent tier Essence Blood, you pulled out the epic tier shoulder guard. You could feel the Crimson Throne trembling. Then a bottle of purple Essence Blood emerged. Name, Essence Blood. Quality, epic. After absorption, it will massively boost your total blood energy. You immediately tilted your head back and drained it. Epic tier Essence Blood is no different from a nuclear explosion. Terrifying energy instantly detonated within your body. Your muscles were frantically expanding and restructuring. Is this the power-up from epic tier Essence Blood? You felt that with a casual punch. You could now punch a hole right through this basement wall. At this moment, you checked your phone, 11:59 p.m. You then browsed some live streams to see if there would be any changes after midnight. In a live stream, a man was standing before a food altar pieced together from various dishes. I originally thought this food altar could give me some crawfish or something, but after this blood moon arrived, the only thing is the altar didn't disappear. Then he took out an item to sacrifice, but the altar suddenly began to shake violently. A giant monster covered in tentacles crawled out from inside instantly. A massive bloody maw appeared on screen and the stream went black. Hair-raising chewing sounds echoed from the darkness. The bullet chat exploded. What the hell just happened? A giant tentacle monster actually crawled out of the altar. Poor streamer didn't get his crawfish, but got eaten himself. This isn't right. Why are there monsters downstairs at my place too? Where are the officials? Someone save us! Soon, a blood-red announcement was pinned to the top. Official Long Kingdom emergency notice. During the blood moon, altars will mutate. Citizens, please do not go out. Act with caution. Powerful awakened can participate in disaster relief under the premise of personal safety. After reading the info, you finally understood. The blood moon is a key. Those altars that didn't complete 10 sacrifices by the new day would have their doors opened by this key. Except what comes out of those doors aren't hopes or gods, but the calamities linked to the altar coordinates. After checking your star of hope and pocket watch of fate, your confidence surged. You remembered the dragon egg was about to hatch, and these calamities were its final nourishment. You immediately decided to head out and start the hunt. Now, you went outside ready to hunt calamities. You quickly found an altar nearby, and next to it stood a woman in a blood-colored cloak. Eye of Truth activate. Name, witch. Quality, common. As expected, the quality of monsters from the first blood moon isn't high. You sneered and crept over. With a cold flash from the soul render, you successfully stabbed through the witch's heart from behind. A shrill scream pierced the night sky. The witch turned into a puddle of black blood. Simultaneously, the nearby altar shattered with a boom. Among the rubble, a small glowing object appeared. Name, altar fragment. Used to maintain the normal operation of an altar. Not knowing what it was for, you simply tossed the fragment into your dimensional space. At the same time, you took out the dragon egg. It quickly absorbed all of the witch's blood. The hatching progress rose from 54% to 55.8%. The lingering black energy was also absorbed on the spot by the soul render. Growth progress reached 214. This is definitely better than slaughtering chickens. This blood moon is basically a high-level XP dungeon. Time to grind all night. After searching for a while, you quickly locked onto your second target. Name, giant trash monster. Quality, common. You ended the fight with a single punch and also harvested an altar fragment. You got more and more excited as you kept killing near the altars. While the blood moon is a disaster for the weak, these calamities and exploded altars are rare resources for the strong. Suddenly, you raised an eyebrow. Ahead, a monster covered in bone spikes was excitedly gnawing on an altar. Name, Bone Demon. Quality, elite. Finally, something different. Since elite level corresponds to green quality items, you immediately decided to one-shot the Bone Demon. You launched a flying kick straight at it. Unexpectedly, it suddenly turned around. Its whole body glowed red. Your kick only pushed it back 2 or 3 meters, causing no real damage. It seems elite calamities have more than just higher stats. They have mechanics. You charged again. Meanwhile, inside a dilapidated factory, a pair of siblings hid behind a container, trembling. They were cornered by a mutated monster. The monster was currently wobbling toward them. The brother tightly gripped an iron bar. But the next moment, the monster flashed directly in front of them. Without a shred of hesitation, the boy pushed his sister away and initiated an attack on the monster. The monster instantly raised its massive bone blade. The sister watched helplessly as her brother's body was split in two. On another side, atop a snowy mountain, countless soldiers were fighting off monsters. Their bullets hit the monsters in front of them, but only managed to kick up a few sparks. The captain roared at the sight. "Even if we can't win, we fight! If this thing gets down the mountain, those villages at the bottom are finished!" On another desert plain, a 5-person squad was covered in wounds. But their faces were full of excitement because they had just defeated an elite calamity. The leader picked up 3 altar fragments. The organization wants to study these and even ordered them to be bought at high prices. "We gotta work hard tonight," a red-haired girl nearby sneered. "A squad as strong as ours fought all night for just 5 fragments. Even official experts aren't as efficient as us. The higher-ups better not think these are easy to get." Cut back to you. You wiped the sweat off your forehead and complained about another wasted run. The previous bone demon had been torn to shreds by you. But it didn't spill a single drop of blood. It couldn't increase the dragon egg's hatching progress at all. What a total scam. After picking up the 3 altar fragments, you blended back into the night to try harder. Maybe the little dragon girl will hatch tonight. You kept going until the area was completely cleared. The dragon egg was so close to hatching, but there wasn't a single monster left in the entire zone. Scenes from tonight flashed through your mind. Common calamities were crushed before you. Only elite monsters with mechanics could offer slight resistance. A steel giant actually managed to ignore the soul render, being immune to all cutting and piercing damage. But you just laughed when you realized the trick. You tore the opponent into scrap metal with just a few punches. There was also an elite nightmare. Its mechanic could actually manifest illusions. When you appeared inside a themed hotel, You pushed open the door to see Zia Weiwei and her rich boyfriend. Their steamy scene didn't bother you at all. Instead, you used a single blade to send them to the afterlife as a pair of lovebirds. Once the nightmare lost its power, you crushed it with a casual squeeze. Suddenly, you felt something and looked up. The red on the moon was rapidly fading. Checking your phone, it was 4 a.m., so the blood moon only lasts until 4 a.m. Then you checked the progress of the dragon egg and the soul render. The dragon egg's hatching progress reached 82.8%, and the soul render's growth hit 647. For now, the soul render hasn't shown its mythic tier potential. It should undergo a qualitative change once growth is maxed. Counting the 31 fragments in your space, you nodded with satisfaction and went home to sleep. Back at the slaughterhouse, you used matches for essence blood, then crashed on the bed. Unexpectedly, you had a very eerie dream. You became a giant ant sprinting through a tunnel. Behind you was a massive flesh and blood grinding wheel. If you stopped, you'd be sucked in. In front were piles of mangled remains crushed by the wheel. Your blood ran cold at the sight. Suddenly, a chilling voice rang out. "Only by eating them can you survive." You jerked awake. That nightmare was absolutely insane, yet the devouring hunger in the dream felt incredibly real. But you couldn't figure out why, no matter how hard you tried. After chilling for a bit, you grabbed your phone. Habitually checking the forums, your face instantly changed. Blood-red posts were everywhere, even overshadowing the blood moon's impact. "Countless dead and injured overnight during the blood moon. Help! My neighbor Old Wang is dead. My wife is crying her eyes out. How do I comfort her? I'm traumatized by altars now, once bitten, twice shy." Wailing, cursing, and dark humor flooded every section. But what truly surprised you was the bright red pinned announcement. Long Kingdom official. Notice 1. To deal with the shifting situation, the official forum is live. All citizens must register. 2. Official recruitment for Dragon Guards has begun. All willing citizens with sufficient strength can sign up in the corresponding section. Specialists will contact you. 3. Effective immediately, the officials will purchase altar fragments with no limit. Unit price, 20,000. This was truly explosive news. You raised an eyebrow. Dragon Guards? This was interesting. They wanted to gather the scattered power among the people and bring it under official control. However, the hottest topic on the forum was still altar fragments. Everyone was speculating about their use. After all, the price offered by the officials was quite high, but most people lacked the strength to actually obtain them. Thinking about the 31 fragments sitting in your dimensional space, they were now worth 620,000. In the past, even if you worked for 10 years, you might not have saved that much. But until you knew their actual function, you weren't going to sell your fragments. Suddenly, your phone vibrated. It was Zhao Gong calling. "Boss Su, thank you for your help. My daughter's meds are secured. I just wanted to ask you one more thing." Hearing his gratitude, your heart stirred. "Go ahead. What is it?" "My wife and I went to sacrifice again today. We pulled a white-quality light bulb and an axe. We know they're useless, but we're really out of money. So I wanted to ask, do you still take them? Anything you can give is fine." His voice grew quieter, seemingly aware this request sounded greedy. But you picked up on something else from his words. It seemed the officials and other organizations looked down on these trash items. Currently, only your Crimson Throne can recycle waste. A bold plan gradually formed in your mind. Then you spoke up. "Tell you what, I'll pick a place tonight. Let's meet and talk." After hanging up, you started thinking. Picking up trash alone was too slow. But if you became a behind-the-scenes boss and built a massive waste recovery network, now was the perfect opportunity. It all depended on whether Uncle Zhao could pass the test. Next, you called Boss Wang. "Boss Wang, come by in a bit. Take back the chickens I processed yesterday and bring 800 more. Boss Wang immediately agreed with joy. Soon, a truckload of kunkans was delivered. You transformed into a merciless chicken slayer, handling the piles of hens with swift strikes. By 4:30 p.m., you wiped the sweat from your brow. Still, at this point, the dragon egg's progress has rushed to 85%. The soul render's growth has also reached 720 points. The future looks bright. At 5:30 p.m., you arrived at the old residential area. You dialed Zhao Gong's number and soon followed him to his home. Although the apartment building was dim and damp, the inside was very clean with several childish drawings pasted on the walls, likely the work of Zhao Gong's daughter. A trace of sentimentality stirred in your heart. "Uncle Zhao, Are you the only one at home right now? Zhao Gong's eyes dimmed slightly. My wife and daughter are still in the hospital. We're usually there accompanying them. I came back today just to sell those 2 things for some cash. He then pulled out 2 items. You quietly activated the Eye of Truth. A glowing light bulb and a rusted iron axe. Both were white-tier items of common quality. Aside from being fed to the Crimson Throne, they were completely useless. Zhao Gong looked hopeful as he tentatively asked, "Is 500 okay? Or maybe 500 for both?" After saying this number, Zhao Gong's whole body tensed up, fearing you'd think it was too expensive and turn away immediately. Hearing the price, you weren't shocked, but rather felt that buying white items for 500 was basically a steal. At this price, people would be fighting to buy them. You didn't rush to agree, but instead asked him, "Do you know many people?" Zhao Gong gave a helpless, bitter smile. "Old friends avoid me now. The only ones I deal with are fellow patients' families. You seem to see an opportunity." You took out an altar fragment and asked if he recognized it. Zhao Gong's pupils dilated instantly. "I've seen this on the forums." "As long as you kill monsters during the blood moon, the altars will drop this stuff, and the official price is set at 20,000. Zhao Gang took a deep breath, trying to calm down. "Boss Su, do you want me to help you sell this?" You saw the admiration in his eyes. You patted Zhao Gang on the shoulder and threw out a partnership offer. "I'll give you this altar fragment. You go sell it. I only want 20,000 from it. The rest of the profit is all yours." Zhao Gang looked up sharply, thinking he had misheard. But soon his expression shifted from wild joy to confusion. "You don't need to give me the money directly. I want you to go to those fellow patients of yours and help me collect more items like these. I don't care how much you pay to get them. But for every piece, I'll give you a buyback price of 500. Not 500 for 2, but 500 for every single one." Hearing this, Zhao Gong's pupils shrunk. His mind raced. A financial analyst's instinct allowed him to instantly calculate the returns. This was basically a money-printing machine for junk. As long as the acquisition price was lower than 500, he could make a steady profit. But he soon sensed something was off. There's no such thing as a free lunch. What exactly is this young man after? Zhao Gong's voice was extremely raspy. "You must have your own requirements for doing this, right? Dealing with smart people really saves effort. Uncle Zhao, I'm giving you an opportunity. Of course, my requirements are simple. First, no matter what price you sell fragments or buy items for, you cannot mention me. From start to finish, I don't exist. What you need to do is build your own trading circle. Do you understand?" Zhao Gong's heart sank. This was a top-tier non-disclosure agreement. Boss Su wanted to hide himself completely behind the scenes. In other words, the secret Boss Su held was likely big enough to bring about lethal consequences. And he, Zhao Gong, would be the white glove pushed to the front, or rather a firewall. Taking high profits meant taking risks. Then you stared into Zhao Gong's eyes. "Second, if you receive fakes, you bear all the consequences. So Uncle Zhao, when you're picking partners, keep your eyes peeled. What I want is efficiency, stability, and a non-stop supply. Of course, you can choose not to do it. I'll buy these 2 items for 1,000, but our paths end here. The choice is yours." In the room, only Zhao Gong's heavy, ox-like breathing remained. This young man's pressure is too intense. Choosing the former is walking a tightrope. Choosing the latter offers temporary stability. But he really didn't want to go back to that hopeless cycle of begging for a few $100 in medical fees. Only by dancing on the edge of the abyss could he give his daughter hope. It was his only way to flip the script. Zhao Gong bit his lip and nodded in agreement. "I'll do it. Rest assured, Boss Su, I might be down and out now, but I used to manage hundreds of people at my firm. I've seen all sorts of lowlifes. I know what to do as long as you're willing to give me this push." Satisfied, you put away the 2 white-tier items. However, you didn't use your dimensional space. After all, one must always be wary of others. Then, after handing him the altar fragments, you told him to contact you once things were underway and left the Zhao residence. Unexpectedly, just as you stepped out of the residential area, a very strange sensation suddenly surged. An invisible pair of eyes was watching you from the shadows. Since your body had been repeatedly buffed by essence blood, your senses had become incredibly sharp. Combined with the mysterious intuition from the pocket watch of fate, this definitely wasn't just a hunch. Next, you bought some supplies at the supermarket and, carrying large bags of goods, deliberately walked toward the desolate outskirts. When you reached an uninhabited spot, you stopped and said flatly, "Aren't you tired of following me the whole way?" Several figures slowly emerged from the darkness. Over a dozen thugs with knives surrounded you while a screeching brake sound pierced the night as a black sedan came into view. A foot wearing a red high heel stepped out first. It was Jia Weiwei. Today she wore heavy makeup, yet it could hardly hide the swelling on her cheeks that hadn't quite faded yet. Your slaps from yesterday were way too brutal. Jia Weiwei's voice was full of resentment. Didn't expect this, did you? We meet again so soon. Weren't you acting all high and mighty on the street yesterday? Your face was full of impatience. Then, with a casual sweep of the eye of truth, all the items on these people were clearly visible to you. They were all non-threatening trash. A bunch of white-tier garbage dared to pick a fight? The strongest one on the surface was merely the scarred leader, wearing a green-tier strength-buffing item. A mosquito's leg is still meat, I guess. Seeing your disdainful look, the scarred man let out a furious roar, swinging his machete down with a green glow. Seeing you neither dodge nor move, he felt even more smug. This idiot actually wants to tank my blade? With this strike, forget a human, even a bull would be split right in half. However, the next second, the grin on the scarred man's face froze. You didn't even blink. With just 2 fingers, you effortlessly caught the sharp machete. The entire scene fell into dead silence. Before the scarred man could react, he was sent flying like a kicked ball. His sternum was shattered. He was one-shotted by you on the spot. The dozen or so thugs who were acting tough a second ago were now completely paralyzed with fear. Just one punch, and Boss Scar was gone. A blonde guy nearby was the first to snap out of it. Fear drove him to scramble away on all fours to save his life, but a flat voice rang in his ear. Trying to run? An afterimage appeared in his eyes. The blonde guy's body stiffened. He lowered his head mechanically. At some point, a bloody hole had appeared in his chest. Black energy swirled on the soul render in your hand. Growth progress reached 721. The remaining thugs turned and bolted at the sight. The last shred of hope they had completely vanished. This wasn't a fight. This was clearly a massacre. You moved like a god of death through the moonlight, harvesting them like wheat. The last survivor collapsed, wetting his pants and begging for mercy. You coldly interrogated him about their base. It turns out Jia Weiwei had climbed the social ladder and was being used by a big shot named Miss Yan. Thanks to the organization's vast intelligence network, they locked onto you so quickly. Once he spilled everything, you finished him off directly with the soul render. Pulling out the grass requires removing the roots. At this moment, only one person was left alive, Jia Weiwei. She stood there in a daze from the very beginning, watching the organization members who were supposed to be powerful in her eyes, falling down like rows of harvested wheat. Her brain had completely short-circuited. Everything happening before her was completely beyond her comprehension. Is this really the same guy I kicked to the curb? The one destined to struggle at the bottom for his entire life? That pathetic, penniless loser with no future? As you walked toward her step by step, Jia Weiwei finally snapped out of it. She let out a shrill, distorted scream. Regardless of everything, she scrambled back on all fours like an ugly insect trying to escape. Tiansheng! Brother Tian, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Remember how sweet we used to be? I beg you, for the sake of our past relationship, spare me just this once, as long as you let me go. I'll do anything you want. I can give you money, give you items. I can pull green tier loot every day. I can even be your girlfriend again. I'll definitely listen to everything you say, she pleaded incoherently, making a total fool of herself. You stopped in front of Jia Weiwei. Your gaze was cold and indifferent. Jia Weiwei, remember how you treated me on the pedestrian street yesterday? Jia Weiwei's body jerked violently. Of course she remembered. Then you extended your foot, signaling her to come over. Jia Weiwei trembled. This was humiliating, but it was nothing compared to staying alive. However, just as she crept closer bit by bit, 2 crisp cracks of breaking bone echoed through the night. You crushed both of her arms. Then, looking into her eyes, you said, "You're willing, but I think you're filthy." The soul render in your hand thrust forward, but an ominous feeling instantly surged. Blood mist exploded, and Jia Weiwei's body actually vanished. That eerie blood blink again for the second time. Right when you were about to deliver the finishing blow, she escaped right under your nose. Rage flared up inside you. Then, you recalled the words of the last survivor, who spilled a few key pieces of intel while begging for his life. A big shot in the organization who was heavily injured a few days ago, Miss Yan, highly favors Jia Weiwei. The blood blink technique they used was identical, so that's how it is. The tall woman from that day was Miss Yan, a high-ranking member of Black Shadow. This creepy survival skill was likely a gift from her to Jia Weiwei. Black Shadow and underground power quietly growing in the dark. I need to crush them all before they turn into an unstoppable monster. First, use today's 3 sacrifice attempts. Then pay a personal visit to this so-called base. Then you started collecting the spoils of war. But just as your fingers were about to touch the item, an extreme sensation of being watched suddenly struck. This feeling was completely different from the amateur stalking earlier. This person was calm and perfectly hidden, definitely a top-tier expert. You cursed inwardly, your killing intent instantly boiling over. You slammed your foot down, shattering the ground. Your body lunged out, leaving after-images in the air, as you shot toward the direction of that prying gaze. In just a few breaths' time, you arrived at the corner, but it was empty, with only a few faint footprints left behind. As expected, someone managed to escape. They were decisive and reacted lightning fast. Such combat prowess is terrifying. It's safe to say they weren't from Black Shadow. Jia Weiwei couldn't possibly associate with an expert of this caliber, so it's likely an elite from the authorities. Only the government has the resources to train such talent. You didn't care about being targeted by a low-tier group like Black Shadow, but being scouted by the officials changes everything. Being marked by a state machine is a huge headache. No matter how confident or OP you become, you aren't arrogant enough to think you can take on the government. It all depends on how they categorize you, as an out-of-control threat who slaughters the innocent, or a powerful freelancer who can be recruited or used. You let out a soft chuckle and continued collecting the loot. 2 kilometers away, the secret agent Black Panther leaned against a cold wall, cold sweat dripping down. This wasn't from running. It was from pure terror. That ghost-like speed, that sudden burst of terrifying power, and those cold, emotionless eyes. How did he find me? I've never been spotted by a target before. In the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs, Black Panther is the top expert in tracking and counter-tracking. No, I must report this immediately. This is Black Panther, requesting immediate extraction. The target found me. I was almost caught. What? Xin Feng and the rest of the staff listened to the report in total disbelief. The Bureau fell into a deathly silence. Black Panther, who was usually calm, steady, and even a bit cold, had actually lost his composure over a single target to this extent. I only managed to snap 1 photo. I'm sending it back now. Take a look. Xin Feng and the others immediately saw the photo on the big screen. This time, the angle was clear. It wasn't just a side profile. Ling Wan stared at the screen, her pupils shrinking. I remember now. The abnormal energy fluctuations I sensed at the market that day. It was him. I thought it was an illusion, or the aftermath of the evil monk's energy. Xin Feng's expression became grim to the extreme. Fortunately, at that time, we were already being observed by him in return. Suddenly, a timid voice spoke up. Everyone turned to see a female team member pointing at the screen with a strange expression. Could he be the one who triggered the gold and red? Light events? A collective gasp filled the command center. Several senior analysts shook their heads, their faces full of disbelief. This is too absurd. He looks too young and seems to have no background. Xin Feng rubbed his temples. He had a massive headache. While everyone was debating, a serious-looking investigator walked in quickly. Captain Qin, Professor Zhou, his detailed background and resume check are complete. Xin Feng took a deep breath and flipped open the first page of the file. The cover page was a standard ID photo of Tiansheng. The young man in the photo had clear eyes and even a trace of a sunny smile on his lips. His resume was equally plain and simple, with no record of any illegal or violent tendencies, until Xin Feng flipped to the final page of the file. Family relations. Countless people in the command center felt their pupils contract sharply. Father: Su Weiguo, status deceased. Mother: Chen Jing, status deceased. Date of death: June 7th. Cause: car accident. The investigator who submitted the report pushed up his glasses. His expression was grave. Captain Qin, I looked into the files of that car accident. It was far too suspicious. Some clues seem to have been forcibly erased. The surveillance cameras were damaged a day in advance. The driver's cause of death didn't add up at all. A clerk in charge of the case back then insisted on pursuing it, but a month later his entire family died in a gas-poisoning accident. Xin Feng took a heavy drag of his cigarette. Su Tiansheng's father was a veteran scout who, during an undisclosed overseas conflict, saved his entire squad at the cost of being heavily injured and brought back critical intel. He retired with honors. The investigator continued. His mother, Tiansheng, was a top neurosurgeon in the country. She participated in multiple humanitarian aid missions and even ignored danger to save an extremely important person. A soul of iron and a healer's heart? The death of such a heroic couple should have sparked a massive investigation, as their son, Tiansheng, should have received the highest level of compensation and protection. But the reality is, the truth was buried deep. He didn't get a single cent of pension, as if the world had completely forgotten him. Linwan gasped at the realization. Why didn't he report it? Why didn't he ask for help? The entire command center fell into a deathly silence. Only Qin Feng's gaze remained complex through the smoke. Xiaolin. Imagine a 20-year-old student. His parents die suddenly. Everyone who knew the truth is either dead or injured. Would he dare make a scene? Maybe this kid understood from the start. If he made a fuss, he'd be the next accident the very next day. Only by living like a true orphan, with his tail between his legs, could he keep his life until now. Professor Zhou nearby pushed up his glasses and turned away. This rabbit hole goes deeper than I thought. Suddenly, Qin Feng stood up. Xiaoliang, it's going to be tough, but try to poke around that old case from the side. For now, all action strategies regarding Tiansheng are on hold. Before we uncover the truth, we won't make any definitive judgments. He is not the enemy, at least not yet. Qin Feng then picked up your file. Tonight's meeting is strictly confidential. We cannot let Tiansheng's parents shed their blood, only to force their child to live a life of tears. On the other side, you had completed 2 sacrifices, but both yielded only epic-tier items. They were only fit to be fed to the Crimson Throne. So you continued your search, finally stopping before a stench-filled abandoned building. A crooked sign hung above. Pet Market. You instinctively covered your nose, but the eye of truth captured a faint energy fluctuation. Based on previous experience, you decisively pushed open the rusted iron door. The air here was thick with the smell of decay. Countless iron cages were piled in the corners. Suddenly you paused. There was a very unique altar in front of you. It looked a bit like the Crimson Throne. It was over 2 meters in diameter, a giant fleshy cocoon emitting an ominous aura. Inside, many silhouettes were devouring and tearing at each other, as if nurturing the strongest king, before it finally breaks out of the cocoon. This thing is actually an altar? You didn't dare get too close. You used the eye of truth on the altar from a distance. It took several seconds before the text finally surfaced. Altar, number 1748. Linked coordinates, eternal dynasty, shadow follows form, heart returns to void. Invisible shackles, how to forge the breath of the mortal world. Seeking a paper promise for an undivided heart. Reading this cryptic riddle made your scalp tingle. It was an ancient god altar, the kind that only exists in legends. And why is it playing word games? You read it over several times, word for word, but still couldn't figure out the requirement. Unable to solve it, you decided to stop overthinking. You pulled out your phone and started searching. After seeing the results, it gradually became clear. Shadow follows form means the shadow must follow the body. Heart returns to void means thought and will must be unified. In other words, it means following and loyalty. So the first keyword is loyalty. The second line, invisible shackles, how to forge the breath of mortal world, means how to take intangible spiritual loyalty and fix it with a tangible contract. Isn't this just the materialization of spirit? Anyone who's had a girlfriend knows, if you don't buy her the bag, you don't love her. It's the same logic. You gave a mocking smile and continued looking at the search results for the third line, seeking a paper promise for an undivided heart. This line was the most contradictory and the core part. A piece of paper with no binding power. How can it forge a loyalty that will never betray? Your mouth twitched. Is there really someone out there who's such a simp that they've evolved into a total slave? But even though you understood the literal meaning, you still didn't know what to sacrifice. To the altar. A slave contract or a labor agreement? None of these seem right. After all, paper contracts and things like that can be torn up at any time if the incentive is high enough. A slave contract is just absolute oppression via force. It's not heartfelt loyalty, and you can't afford to guess wrong. Otherwise, the black light calamity formed by so many ancient parasites, just thinking about it makes your scalp tingle. You felt your thoughts hitting a dead end. Just as you had spent an hour with no clues, you slammed a frustrated fist into a nearby wall. Because you used too much force, the photo album in your backpack fell right out. The first photo on the front page was your father's upright figure. He once doted on you, rubbing your head. Listen, kid, remember we can never let our backbones bend, no matter where we go. Your body jolted as you suddenly realized the thousands of years of cultural heritage in the Long Kingdom rely on bloodlines and clans. No matter where a person is or how high their achievements, they can never cut ties with their surname or the blood flowing in their veins. That is their root. And aren't genealogy books and ancestral halls the most fitting paper promises and mortal breath? A genealogy book is essentially just paper with writing. An ancestral tablet is originally just a piece of wood with carvings, but they represent a sense of belonging etched into everyone's bones. The confusion in your eyes vanished instantly, but the cruel reality pressed down on you. You have no clan now, no genealogy, and even your parents have passed away. Your relatives avoid you like the plague. You are currently a complete and utter loner. This altar to you is basically a dead end, an impossible dead end. A moment later, a low chuckle came from the silent pet market, and then the laughter grew louder. You snapped your head up, fire flickering in your eyes. Since there is no clan, then from this day forth I, Su Ming, shall be a clan of my own. Ever since your parents died, you discovered a massive, dark conspiracy. You didn't know who the enemy was. You could only remain stuck in hopeless speculation forever. But the arrival of the altars let you see that the monopolized rules are starting to crumble. And now, you are going to resist. Better yet, you're going on a killing spree. So, you will personally establish the first tablet for yourself. Looking around, your gaze finally locked onto a collapsed shelf. You snapped off the thickest piece of pine wood. Then you bit your fingertip open. On the wooden board, you wrote 2 words, Su Ming. The entire board trembled violently without warning. The blood energy modified by the essence blood was massive. You could clearly feel the connection between yourself and the tablet. Then, holding the tablet, you walked up to the fleshy cocoon. You slammed the tablet in your hand hard against the cocoon. The surroundings suddenly became deathly silent. Your heart pounded wildly. The next second, the sound of drums came from all directions. You felt as if you had returned to an ancient primeval forest. Ancient tribes there were worshipping with devotion, not only sacrificing graceful women, but also having countless colorful poisonous snakes cheering them on. Believers of different sects were all showing off their devotion. Suddenly a voice rang out. This is Gu. It is following the rules. It is a willing sacrifice. You, a mere mortal with no roots or standing, dare to talk about starting your own sect. Instantly a chaotic will assaulted your brain. The images before your eyes began to flicker crazily. You vaguely saw the ancient parasites in the cocoon starting to crawl up your arm. You wanted to leave, but couldn't move at all. The soul render in your pocket swirled with black energy. In an instant, your eyes turned bloodshot. You erupted with your entire body's blood energy and roared, "Your legacy is nothing but the wreckage of the old era. I am the beacon of the new era. I am the rule." Instantly, the illusion shattered. You were drenched in cold sweat. The ancient parasites in the cocoon that were about to burst out suddenly stopped. They began to accelerate their frantic biting and devouring, until finally all sound disappeared, leaving only one giant pitch-black beetle. Is this my Gu King? Your voice trembled with excitement. Judging by this aura, it has to be at least mythic tier, right? But suddenly your eyelids jumped wildly as the membrane wrapping the Gu King abruptly tightened. It directly crushed that soul-surviving Gu King into a pulp. You instantly lost your cool. Are you kidding me? You bet everything and endured a mental assault, only to end up without a single parasite. Just then, another change occurred. The deflated cocoon erupted with a towering red light. This terrifying energy fluctuation shook you so hard you could barely stand. Could there be an even stronger winner behind that beetle? As the red light gradually faded, the cocoon altar remained, but it was empty inside. Only a dark, fleshy core floated above the altar. You immediately activated the Eye of Truth. A line of green text surfaced. Name, Heart of the Ancient Dynasty. Quality, Mythic. Function 1. Automatically absorbs energy from heaven and earth. Every 15 days, it randomly breeds a brand new ancient parasite. Function 2. Can be used to store and fuse all types of ancient parasites. Holy crap, another mythic, and it's a perpetual motion machine. Although the production interval is long, there's no such thing as a weak ancient parasite. Moreover, Function 2 allows for fusion. Meaning if I crossbreed these things, I can literally create an ultimate god-tier parasite? Suddenly, you looked beside the heart of the ancient dynasty and saw two blood-red parasites floating there, one large and one small. The larger one sat quietly like a fingernail, while the small one, like a red mole, circled around it. Instantly, the Eye of Truth activated. Name, Bloodline Kinship Goo. Quality, Legendary. The mother goo can be fused into oneself, and the child goo can be fused into a soul. The child goo host will maintain absolute loyalty to the mother goo host. Once the child goo host has any thoughts of betrayal, the mother goo can instantly destroy them. You gasped. The function of this thing is absolutely broken. Once planted, the other person becomes your loyal puppet. Their life and death are determined by your single thought. The first person you thought of was Zhao Gong, but on second thought, this is a legendary item. It would be a waste on a normal person. Premium steel must be used for the blade's edge. Packing up your loot, you prepared to head back to plan your actions for the next few days. The scene shifts to a luxury mansion's meditation room. Miss Yan was healing. The hidden injuries from her previous clash with you left her in agony. Just then the door was slammed open. Xia Weiwei came rolling and crawling in. She was covered in blood with broken arms, looking like a drowned dog pulled straight out of a mud pit. Yan Ruoxui's eyes were full of disgust. Useless trash! How did you end up in this state? Xia Weiwei immediately started crying for sympathy. I was ambushed by that loser ex-boyfriend. He learned some weird martial arts and killed all the bodyguards protecting me. He has zero respect for Black Shadow. He even forced out the location of our branch base over there. Yan Ruoxui was even more speechless after hearing this. Your entire squad got soloed by a loser ex-boyfriend, and you have the nerve to cry? However, she didn't have the energy to care about this nonsense. Since the ex-boyfriend knew the base's location, just to be safe, Yan Ruoxui called her subordinate, Lord Ying. Set the base's alert level to max. Double the manpower. Make sure that place is guarded like an iron fortress. Remember, my plan must not be affected. Hanging up, she hissed in pain. Her mind drifted back to that powerful man. Time reached the early hours, and the light rain arrived on schedule. You stood under the eaves holding the chalice of serenity. This cup is indeed useful. No wonder so many people love using cups. In the future, if you encounter anyone trying to mutate, you can just confiscate their tools with one cup. Returning to the bedroom, you began taking stock of your current assets. Mythic tier items include the Abyssal Demonic Dragon, the Soul Render, and the Heart of the Ancient Dynasty. Legendary tier items include the Dimensional Warehouse, Pocket Watch of Fate, and the Star of Hope. Plus this newly acquired kinship goo. The luxury of this gear set would make every faction fight to the death if they knew. Aside from these, you also held several bottles of essence blood that can save lives or level you up. This is your capital for surviving and thriving in this chaotic world. After all, the officials have likely noticed you, plus there's that persistent Black Shadow organization. With a big battle looming, you had to be prepared. Just then, your phone vibrated. It was Zhao Gong, his voice tinged with excitement. Boss Su, that altar fragment you gave me sold for 26,000. That's 30% higher than the official buyback price, and the buyers aren't ordinary people. They claim to be from the Black Shadow organization. They even sent me an invitation to join them. They said there are internal benefits and some kind of protection. Hearing the name Black Shadow, your hand tapping the table stopped. Talk about a small world. You were just worried about not having a chance to uproot them, and here they come knocking. A cold smirk played on your lips. You spoke directly to Zhao Gong. Uncle Zhao, agree to join Black Shadow. On the other end of the line, Zhao Gong was stunned, thinking he had misheard. Your tone turned chilling as you stated bluntly, I have a blood feud with Black Shadow. I want you to join as a mole. This was a life-or-death mission for Zhao Gong, basically asking him to walk into hell. So Zhao Gong fell silent after hearing this. But he was a smart man and a desperate father. To save his daughter, he'd walk through fire and brimstone, let alone hell. Zhao Gang gritted his teeth and agreed. As long as you can save my daughter. My life is yours. You smiled but didn't bother with empty promises. Instead, you asked directly about his daughter's condition. Learning it was acute leukemia, you looked at the dark red essence blood in your hand. A wild thought crossed your mind. This stuff can cleanse the marrow and reshape the physical body. Could it cure Zhao Gong's daughter's leukemia? Since you wanted to win someone's loyalty, you had to use these heaven-defying methods. Then you arranged it directly. Uncle Zhao, I'll come to pick up the first batch of items tomorrow afternoon. I'll give you another altar fragment then. Use it to trade with Black Shadow and accept their invitation. Also, before going to your house, I want to visit your daughter in the hospital first. After hanging up, you lay in bed to sleep, only to have an absolutely insane dream. In the dream, you were being hunted by a vampire in a tuxedo. This vampire looked incredibly elegant and noble. He quickly cornered you. Just as you were preparing to fight for your life, he leaned into your ear and said with a look of pure resentment, "Not cool, bro. What kind of vampire eats matches every single day?" You jerked awake and were so angry you laughed. This is the Crimson Throne sending you a dream. It's complaining that the matches you're feeding it are too low grade. You rushed to the basement and started venting at that beating heart. A son doesn't mind an ugly mother, and a dog doesn't mind a poor home. You're lucky to have anything to eat, and you're being picky? But despite the scolding, you realized this thing actually has a consciousness. It must have evolved by devouring items. To soothe this high-maintenance ancestor, you painfully threw the few more matches in. Watching its devouring speed double compared to before, you were overjoyed. It seems you'll have to find more good stuff to feed it in the future. After settling the throne, you looked at the dragon egg in your hand. The hatching progress was stuck at 85% and wouldn't budge. So you pulled out a bottle of essence blood to give it a snack. As it turned out, the dragon egg had quite the backbone. With a flick of its tail, it rejected you directly, not even sparing a glance. You were speechless. This is another pig that refuses to eat fine grain. It seems that to hatch it, you still have to rely on the most primitive method, killing monsters. If you keep killing chickens every day, I'm afraid the soul render will start sending me dreams too. Time for a change of species. Then you dialed Boss Wang's number and asked for 100 pigs. After all, you were bored of killing chickens and needed to switch tastes to practice your skills. But as soon as Boss Wang heard the word pig, his voice shook with fear. Boss Su, you can't touch pigs lately. Several large pig farms over there have had major accidents. Hearing this, you raised an eyebrow and told him to explain. Boss Wang then told you, trembling, "When I was on a video call with old Lee last night, I saw those pigs go crazy with my own eyes. Their eyes were blood red, biting anyone they saw. They even started eating old Lee on camera. The screen was full of black blood and screams. It scared the soul right out of me. I tried calling later, but no one picked up. That place called Li Jiao is absolutely a living hell right now." After listening, you actually smiled. Isn't that a coincidence? You were just worried about where to grind for XP. Besides, aren't these mutated pigs just free food for you? So you immediately asked him for the address. Seeing that you were hell-bent on going, Boss Wang could only give you the address, and even offered to give you his green quality axe for self-defense. You felt a warmth in your heart. Although this axe was just scrap metal in your eyes, the gesture was rare. So you refused the axe and said, "Stay safe at home. Wait for me to come back and treat you and your wife to drinks." The scene shifts. You arrived at Li Jiao according to the GPS. This place was indeed remote, not even a bird in sight. The air was filled with the stench of decay. In the middle of the road stood a rusted oil drum. You suddenly stopped, thinking, in a godforsaken place like this, should there even be a mailbox? Then the Eye of Truth activated. Altar number 52,818. Linked coordinates, Myriad Realms mailbox. Addicted to secrets, longing to pry, loves sharing everyone's private gossip. Seeing the ID, you almost lost it. 52818, 52818. I want to pry, I want to pry. This altar's demand is truly impolite, zero sense of boundaries. But if used well, maybe it could uncover some earth-shattering secrets. Though you hesitated for a moment, you decided to handle business first. You made your way to the crooked scholar tree in the village. The walls of several pig pens had already halfway collapsed. As you approached the pig pens, you heard a hair-raising sound of chewing coming from inside. Inside the pen, a monster, a full size larger than a normal domestic pig, was facing away from you, buried deep and frantically gnawing on something. The Eye of Truth activated. Name, Plague Mad Pig. Quality, Common Calamity. Completely contaminated livestock. No sanity left, reduced to a monster that only knows how to kill and devour. While chewing on the keyword contamination, you wondered what the source of this contamination actually was. But you didn't waste any breath. You crept up behind it, hand up, blade down. The huge pig head rolled off. The soul render's growth progress instantly jumped by 12 points. It really is faster than killing chickens. Unexpectedly, at that moment, the headless pig corpse exploded without warning. The massive bang alerted the whole pig pen. Dozens of plague-mad pigs smashed through the fences and rushed out, blood-red eyes locked onto you. If it were anyone else, they'd be so scared they'd wet their pants. But in your eyes, you were shaking with excitement. These aren't monsters, they're clearly just walking XP packs. It looks like your soul render and the little dragon girl are going to be stuffed today. Suddenly, a deafening roar erupted. The herd of pigs rushed over like a mudslide. You didn't just not dodge. Instead, you charged head-on. Blade light flashed. Pig heads were flying everywhere. With every slash, the soul render's progress bar was skyrocketing. Meanwhile, explosions rang out one after another. You were like a cold-blooded harvester, grinding mobs like crazy within the herd of pigs. Just as the soul render's progress bar hit max, a sudden feeling of dread washed over you. The warning from the pocket watch of fate made you retreat instantly. At the same time, you were shocked to find that the exploding black blood didn't dissipate. Instead, as if pulled by a force, it all flowed toward that crooked scholar tree. You realized things were bad. It was a classic case of the truth being hidden in plain sight. The real boss was actually this tree. The scholar tree, having drunk its fill of blood, instantly came to life. The originally withered trunk and branches began to grow and spread frantically. Countless blood-colored leaves sprouted out of thin air, forming a demonic canopy that blotted out the sun. Seeing this, you couldn't help but complain, "Is this wood style? Deep forest emergence, is that it?" Countless masses of flesh wriggled and gathered on the trunk, actually growing a giant poisonous eye. It was clearly alive now. Instantly, the Eye of Truth was activated. Lines of burning blood-red text flickered frantically before your eyes. Altar number, pseudo-177. Linked coordinates, rotting breeding ground. Using the flesh and blood of all living things as nourishment to breed the son of rot in a place of despair and deathly silence. The ID actually starts with pseudo? What does that mean? Though you didn't have time to overthink it, you could feel that the pressure this tree gave you was even stronger than the previous epic tier wraith. This thing is breeding some son of rot. You had to kill it before it fully took shape. As you gripped the newly upgraded soul render, your killing intent surged. Just as you were about to charge, suddenly, with a massive boom, the blood energy beneath your feet exploded. You were sent flying backward like an arrow from a bow, because the ground where you had been standing was violently pierced by countless crimson vines. The blood-colored canopy above that blotted out the sky, shook violently. Tens of thousands of flying leaves turned into blade-like feathers and whistled down. This entire area had already turned into this monster's absolute domain. Using the Eye of Truth to look again, the name of the one-eyed tree demon finally emerged. Deadlord Locust Mother. Quality: epic calamity. A calamity spawned by a mutated altar, with the mission of protecting the descent of the son of rot. So an ID with pseudo actually meant it was a mutated altar. At this moment, you had no time for extra thoughts. The bullet time from the pocket watch of fate was instantly activated. The leaf rain, sharp as knives, had already reached your head. You moved frantically through the dense attacks, dodging wildly between the gaps of countless vines and leaves. But the monster's firepower was simply too overwhelming. A flying leaf, shimmering with an eerie red light, still managed to slice your arm. The flesh at the wound quickly turned black and began to rot. Your expression changed drastically. The essence blood in your body surged, forcibly suppressing the spread of that toxic power. However, during that split-second stall, a thick vine lashed violently against your back. This strike nearly broke your bones. You were sent flying while coughing up a mouthful of blood. This made you once again feel the danger of death. An epic monster was indeed a bit overtuned. Seeing another giant vine sweeping toward you, with no way to dodge, you suddenly remembered that cup of light rain, so you decided to try a Hail Mary and pulled out the chalice of serenity, splashing it violently toward the vine. Miracle happened. That vine, which was strong enough to crush a tank, instantly turned into rotten wood the moment it touched the light rain. It crumbled into ash, leaving even the Locust Mother's giant eye dazed. It clearly didn't understand, and taking advantage of its confusion, You kicked off the ground and charged once more. The locust mother was completely enraged. Countless blood-red vines burst from the ground. This moment revealed its true, complete form, but there was no turning back. You carefully sprinkled light rain to clear a path while tanking the rain of flying leaves to rush the main body. The price, of course, was heavy. Countless wounds opened on your body and your consciousness began to blur, but you were getting closer to that single eye. 30 meters, 20 meters, 10 meters, and then the light rain in the chalice ran out. Your heart skipped a beat. You were out of life-saving trump cards. The locust mother seized this chance. The trunk split open, firing a lethal black vine at a speed that left you in despair. Even in the predictions of the pocket watch of fate, only the blood red of death remained. At the critical moment, you pulled out that match of hope, igniting it within the deepest darkness. A loud boom echoed as the flame touched the vine, triggering a violent explosion. You managed to forcibly block that finishing blow. After all, fire counters would. This was the hope you needed. Seizing the opening, you became one with your blade, turning into a black stream of light that stabbed deep into that terrified, toxic eye. "Break for me!" With a crack, the single eye shattered. Immediately after, the towering giant tree collapsed. It transformed into a pillar of black light connecting heaven and earth. At this moment, all of Zhangzhou could see this terrifying phenomenon. You were blown dozens of meters back by the airwave. Covered in blood and looking pathetic, you started laughing like a madman because you won. You survived an epic-tier calamity once again. Dragging your broken body, you walked into the center of the black light pillar. Two shimmering items were exceptionally eye-catching there. The first was a black orb the size of a fist. Instantly, the Eye of Truth activated. Pseudo-altar heart. Locust Mother. Quality. Epic. Can be permanently fused with any altar. It transforms and mutates them. A core that only condenses after an altar is destroyed. It is both the echo of death and the embryo of new life. Consumable. Once a target altar is chosen for fusion, if forcibly stripped, this pseudo-altar heart will disappear. Damn, this is good stuff. It'll be perfect for buffing the Crimson Throne later. Then you turned your gaze to the second trophy. Mark of Rot. Quality. Legendary. Your soul has been branded with a hint of the aura of rot. Grants massive resistance and affinity toward all rot-related negative powers. It seemed a bit niche since it only increases resistance, but as you prepared to pack up the ashes, the blood-red text appearing made your scalp tingle. You have made the slumbering son of rot feel a long-lost sense of amusement. He looks forward to your formal meeting. You instantly freaked out. Turns out you killed the lackey, but the boss is still alive, and he's already locked onto you. It felt like being a tiny ant deemed interesting by a giant. You cursed once and quickly turned to get the hell out of there. After all, this towering black pillar of magic was too conspicuous. But you'd only taken 2 steps when the mark of rot inside your dimensional space reacted. A will that didn't belong to this world suddenly descended, and an indelible mark was branded onto your body. Inside the pitch-black storm, you vaguely saw a figure. It was the son of rot. Gritting your teeth, you activated the Eye of Truth. An unprecedented sharp pain shot through your eyes. 2 streaks of hot, bloody tears streamed down from the corners of your eyes. Let me see clearly. What the hell are you? Name unknown. Quality unknown. Description unknown. Seeing the results, you couldn't suppress your churning blood energy. A mouthful of black blood sprayed out. The opponent seemed to exceed the current detection limits of the Eye of Truth. Sure, you have plenty of cheats and are definitely a powerhouse now, but in front of those guys, you're still just an ant. Then you raised your head again to look at the sky. The figure had vanished. Meanwhile, the entire Jiang City had descended into chaos. The Bureau of Supernatural Affairs sounded a level 1 alert. The incident with this black light pillar was officially named Mahakala. Yenruo Shui also saw the anomaly. She immediately gathered her elites to rush to the scene. All the monsters and miscreants hiding in the shadows swarmed toward Li Jiao. Anyone with even a bit of strength was heading this way, hoping to get a piece of the pie. However, you were the only one moving in the opposite direction. You were going back to that gossip altar you encountered earlier. While you were at it, you checked the upgraded soul render. Name, Ultimate Soul Render. Quality, Mythic. New effect. Nullify all spells. My wit is superior to yours. New effect. Soul-sucking nourishment. Absorb the target's life essence after a kill to restore combat power, enabling infinite slaughter. New effect. God-slaying pressure. Deals 1000% damage to mythic tier units. Looking at these cracked stats, you almost wanted to bow down to the Soul Render. Bro, you're OP. The Soul Render's post-ascension stats were absolutely broken. Nullify all spells means no more chip damage. Whether it's a gimmick monster or a rule-based monster, they'll all be cleaved in half. Soul-sucking nourishment covers your biggest weakness. As long as the killing doesn't stop, you are a perpetual motion machine. The final god-slaying pressure is even more dominant. As long as you're given enough time, you'd even dare to slay a god. Back at the oil drum altar, you dipped your finger in blood and wrote 8 words on a piece of paper. I've seen God, and I want to slay him. After writing, you stuffed it directly into the oil drum. The drum instantly shrieked with laughter. Golden light shot into the sky. It seemed this gossip was way too spicy. The drum's slot spat out a black envelope with an ancient texture. Grabbing the envelope, you turned and bolted. After all, the commotion was just too loud. After returning to the slaughterhouse, you first drank 2 bottles of essence blood to recover from your injuries. Then you opened the inner envelope. The black envelope had a strange texture. It was blank at first. Then a line of golden text popped up. I like your gossip very, very much. In exchange, I'll tell you 2 secrets. First, the light rain does not come from the sky, but from the tears of a hero. This realization made you gasp in shock. This world-overturning light rain is actually just one person's tears. What kind of existence could do that? Then, the second secret emerged. Those artists are already impatient and are conducting their final rehearsal. Especially him, he really wants to meet you. This caused you to furrow your brows in thought. Who are these riddle-loving artists? And who is he? So you used the eye of truth to investigate, attempting to probe the hidden karma and truth behind these words. The result, you couldn't see a thing. The next second, the black envelope and paper in your hand turned into golden dust, dissipating into the air. The clue was dead. You punched the table in rage. This altar really is useless. It's insane, insisted on being a total riddlemonger. Since you couldn't figure it out, you stopped thinking about it. For now, boosting your power was the only way. Next, you called Boss Wang and asked him to send over another 1,000 chickens. During the call, you put on an act, pretending you were scared off by that massive black pillar. Boss Wang fell for it, sighing in relief. It's good that you're alive. It's better not to go. Yeah, staying away is for the best. After hanging up, you went down to the basement. You pulled out that altar heart from the Locust Mother. This was a huge gamble. Win, and the Crimson Throne evolves. Lose, and you waste an epic item. You waved the altar heart in front of the throne, warning this thing not to just eat it as a snack. Then you placed it directly on top. With a sizzle, a puff of blue smoke rose. The altar heart suddenly opened its single eye and sprouted countless black roots, trying to forcibly parasitize the throne. This completely enraged the sleeping sovereign. The Crimson Throne shuddered violently. Countless blood-red tentacles erupted, engaging those bold, invading roots in a total slaughter. After just 1 minute, the battle was over. The black roots were devoured completely, and everything returned to peace. Just as you were about to complain that it broke, you saw something at the center of the throne. A lush green branch had sprouted, with a crystal-clear green fruit growing at the tip. Eye of Truth activated, Crimson Throne. Fused with the Locust Mother Heart, new special attribute added. Essence blood will be extracted via the art of heart blood and poured into the heart blood fruit for brewing. Brewing? Your heart raced, but you had no extra items to test it with. Suddenly, you had a brain blast. You pulled a bottle of ordinary essence blood from the warehouse. Who says you can't sacrifice essence blood to get essence blood? This is called a pro-gamer move. This is an infinite loop. The Crimson Throne seemed speechless, but it obediently swallowed it down. A moment later, the fruit glowed brilliantly, and a brand new bottle of essence blood dropped out. The liquid inside had turned a vibrant, life-filled green. Eye of Truth appraisal, essence blood, heart blood purified. Purified heart blood not only boosts vitality, but more importantly, it has a gentle medicinal nature. It can repair the body, purify bloodlines, and expel negative energy. Looking at this upgraded essence blood, your breathing quickened. Nice, nice, nice! The refined 2.0 version is here. You stared intensely at the words, purify bloodlines. Xiaogong's daughter with leukemia instantly came to mind. Before, you only had a 10% confidence level. Worrying her weak body couldn't handle the violent energy. But now, with this gentle, purified version, the chance of her being reborn is as high as 90%. This is practically a god-tier medicine tailored specifically for him. You knew it clearly in your heart. This wasn't just about saving a single life. It was an investment with an immeasurable rate of return. As long as you save his daughter, Zhao Gang, a talent with a brain for finance, will become your most loyal confidant. This move is a guaranteed win. Feeling great, you pulled out your phone to browse the forums. However, the moment you glanced at it, your expression changed. What exactly was going on? You thought the commotion from taking down the Locust Mother would top the trending searches. But upon opening the forum, though there were posts about the black light in Jiang City, they were drowned out by even more terrifying news. What caught your eye was a series of titles in bold, blood-red text. All paper dolls in Fengdu Town have come to life! They're parading through the streets with gongs and drums for weddings and funerals. Cowards beware. High-res photos inside. Midnight mahjong sounds echo through Tiansheng, driving countless residents insane. Giant mutant sea fish appear in the East Sea, about to undergo a rock-solid resurrection. Beast legions are forming and marching toward the cities. Plagues abroad, volcanic eruptions. Clearly, every single one of these incidents was the work of mutated alters you'd never seen before. It seems the Locust Mother wasn't an isolated case. After the Blood Rain event, the world didn't return to its previous laws at all. Mutated alters were frantically sowing seeds, breeding countless unknown horrors. This made you realize you had to get stronger even faster. At 4 p.m., you finished processing all 1,000 chickens sent over. The 10,000 purification points for the soul render were just a drop in the bucket. The little dragon girl's hatching progress reached 88.5%. Since your body had mostly recovered, you decided to go see Zhao Gang. This was the most important link in your plan. When the call went through, Zhao Gang's voice sounded like his soul had been sucked out. He only gave a hospital address before hanging up. 40 minutes later, you met an incredibly aged Zhao Gang in the hospital corridor. He was on his knees begging the doctor to save his daughter, even if it meant going bankrupt to buy special imported medicine. The doctor sighed helplessly. The cancer cells are spreading too fast. Even a god couldn't save her. Hearing this, Zhao Gang and his wife completely broke down. You walked over and patted his shoulder, and followed them into the ward. On the bed, the little girl named Zhao Xinghe was so thin she was unrecognizable. Seeing her parents enter, she still forced a mature smile. She even had the strength to call you uncle. That uncle made your heart ache. Zhao Gang knelt by the bedside like a helpless child, holding his daughter's withered little hand as tears fell like rain. At this moment, the little girl's eyes also grew moist. She reached out a hand that was almost nothing but skin and bone, gently stroking Zhao Gang's tear-stained cheek. Daddy, am I going to a place very, very far away soon? It's okay. I read in a book that good children turn into stars in the sky. From now on, I'll become the brightest star in the sky. I'll keep watching over Daddy and Mommy forever. So if you miss me, just look up at the night sky. Hearing these words, even the doctor couldn't help but turn his head away. Afterward, you pulled Zhao Gang into the corridor and asked in a low voice how the situation really was. Zhao Gang leaned against the cold wall, his voice hoarse. The doctor says, at the rate she's going, she has half a month at most. Looking at this desperate man, you calmly said, I have a way. Sure enough, those 4 words made the deathly light in Zhao Gang's eyes flicker with life. In an instant, he was on his knees in front of you. You slowly leaned down, your pitch-black eyes reflecting the man's broken appearance, while your lips moved slightly to explain the situation. The voice wasn't loud, but it made Zhao Gang's pupils shrink violently. At first, Zhao Gang shook his head frantically. This is too absurd! And too dangerous. But as he shook his head, he stopped. That ignited feverish hope overrode everything. A gamble. Why not take it? Back in the ward, Zhao Gang explained to his wife. Mrs. Zhao looked terrified, staring at her husband in disbelief. However, though she was afraid, she thought of her daughter's numbered days. Under her husband's fanatical gaze, Mrs. Zhao chose to believe. Then she turned to look at her daughter on the bed, her voice trembling. Xinghe, this uncle has a special medicine, but it might hurt a little, and it might affect you. Are you scared? Weak to the extreme, Zhao Xinghe barely hesitated as she gently shook her head. Xinghe isn't afraid of pain. As long as I can stay by Daddy and Mommy's side. If it doesn't work, please don't blame the uncle. Zhao Gang turned away sharply, refusing to let his tears fall in front of his daughter. Seeing this, you said no more and reached into your pocket. A bottle of essence blood, shimmering with green light, was pulled out. Mrs. Zhao's hands trembled as she took it. The moment the cap was opened, A massive surge of life aura instantly filled the entire ward. Even the exhaustion on the couple's faces was washed away a little. Ha ha ha! God-tier medicine! This is absolutely God-tier medicine! Excitement filled Mrs. Zhao's heart. She carefully brought the bottle to her daughter's lips and fed her the essence blood, not leaving a single drop. Though the liquid went down without any immediate reaction, a few seconds passed, and the heart rate monitor began to alarm frantically. The doctor heard the noise and tried to rush in, but was locked out. Just a few seconds later, a miracle happened. The wild vitals returned to normal. On the hospital bed, Zhao Xinghei's originally pale little face actually showed a hint of a rosy glow. Zhao Gang's voice shook, his pitch changing completely. "Xinghei, how do you feel?" The little girl slowly opened her eyes. "It feels good. It's just a bit—" This made your heart and the Zhao's hearts clinch again. Zhao Xinghei added with a smile, "It's just that I'm a bit hungry." The moment those words were out, the heavy stone in the Zhao's hearts finally fell. Uncontrollable tears instantly burst from their eyes. There is hope! Their daughter seemed to have been literally dragged back from the gates of hell. One drop of divine blood, and even the Grim Reaper takes a detour. At this moment, Dr. Zhang finally opened the ward door with a spare key. He was about to lose his temper, but then he froze on the spot. Before him, the little girl's complexion was clearly much more radiant, and the readings on the machines had returned to normal. Seeing this, the doctor's jaw nearly hit the floor. Noticing this, you turned around and said with a calm gaze, "Dr. Zhang, no need to overreact. I used an altar item on her. I don't want anyone spreading word about today's events. It would only cause unnecessary trouble." The doctor snapped out of his shock instantly. He could hear the threat in your voice. He understood exactly what those words meant. He just never expected that in this altar era, such a priceless treasure would be used so selflessly on a little girl. To be able to produce such an item and dispose of it so casually, how terrifying must the person behind it be? Crushing him would probably be easier than stepping on an ant. Dr. Zhang took the hint. "I'll go prepare the follow-up checkups. Rest assured, I'll keep this strictly confidential." Having said that, he didn't linger and turned to leave. After Dr. Zhang left, Zhao Gong and his wife couldn't hold back any longer. They were about to kneel to you, but you reached out and stopped them. You told them to take care of their daughter first. "Uncle Zhao, I'll wait for you downstairs." Walking to the door, you suddenly turned back to the little girl and said, "Right. Xinghei, next time we meet, don't call me uncle. It makes me feel old." Then you left with a smile. Even though you used Zhao Gang, this salvation was absolutely real. After walking out of the hospital, the smile on your face vanished. You looked toward that black pillar of light still standing on the horizon. Logically, since the locust mother is dead, this phenomenon should have dissipated by now. Yet why was it still there? Was this not over yet? You looked at the news on the forum, your heart trembling slightly. You typed the words "black light" into the search bar, and a massive amount of info surfaced instantly. Most of it was about the tragic results of failed sacrifices. But you scrolled rapidly, locking onto a few unique posts. Deep in the mountains of Puan Town, the black pillar refuses to scatter. Coordinates gaze. The black light makes the sky look like a hole was punched through it. Officials have issued an emergency lockdown. As one of the initiators, you knew better than anyone what this black pillar of light represented. You were the first one on the surface to solve a pseudo-mutated altar, but definitely not the only one. In this world, the number of units capable of handling epic-tier anomalies might be greater than you imagined. At this time, Zhao Gong also walked out of the hospital. He navigated through the crowd of people. His pace wasn't fast, but every step was incredibly steady. His back was no longer bent. He stood tall and straight, though tear stains remained on his face, and his eyes were still red and swollen. Within those eyes, not a trace of his previous gloom remained. You felt it too. The past was forgotten. This man was stepping out of the shadows and toward a brand new life that you personally bestowed upon him. Finally, Zhao Gang stood before you. The surrounding noise quietly faded away at this moment. He reached out his hand, and you shook it with a smile. Everything was understood without a word. 10 minutes later, you were sitting on the shabby sofa in Zhao Gang's home, looking at the 17 white-quality items he had collected. The eye of truth scanned them. Every piece was authentic. Good job. This time, right in front of Zhao Gang, you gave a light wave of your arm. The small mountain of items vanished into thin air. A miracle. Zhao Gang's pupils shrank, his heart filled with shock. You took in his reaction. You had Uncle Zhao's loyalty, but beyond gratitude, He needed to never see your full depth and realize that following you was the only way up. On the other hand, since Uncle Zhao is the recycling station manager, this method of yours was truly hard to hide. You then took out another altar fragment and tossed it over. As I said before, use this to work your way into Black Shadow, infiltrate them, and act with caution. Rest assured, sir, in financial terms, this is called venture capital. Since you've invested in me, I won't let you lose money. You nodded in satisfaction without saying more. This was exactly the state you wanted to see. A well-sharpened blade should have its own edge. This is how your employees should be. Having arranged everything, it was late. You declined the Zhao's dinner invitation and left the dilapidated residential building alone. Passing a street corner, the rich aroma of baking made you stop. Fresh mooncakes. You looked at the big round moon in the sky and realized belatedly that tomorrow was the Mid-Autumn Festival. Boss, give me a few boxes of mooncakes, any flavor except 5 nuts. You walked into the night carrying the gift boxes, tore open an egg yolk lotus paste one, and took a big bite. The familiar taste made your eyes well up. But the next second, your smile froze. Mid-Autumn Festival. Mid-Autumn Gala Rehearsal. The details from altar number 52,818 exploded in your brain. Those artists are already impatient and are conducting their final rehearsal. Is it happening in these few days? A look of realization appeared in your eyes. Just then, a faint operatic singing drifted into your ears on the night wind. The voice was desolate, resentful to the extreme. This tune was too eerie, too sinister. Who's there? With a flick of your wrist, the soul render slid into your palm. Cold, killing intent instantly locked onto the surroundings. However, there was nothing. A surge of anger rose in your heart for no reason. The sorrow and loneliness in that voice actually resonated with the loneliness you felt from missing your parents. You lowered your body and merged into the night. Minutes later, you pushed aside the wild grass and your pupils shrank. An abandoned open-air theater appeared before you. The audience seats were empty, yet the atmosphere was as oppressive as if they were filled with invisible ghosts. On the stage, 3 distinct voices were intertwining. On the left was a desolate martial lead. In the middle was a resentful female lead, and on the right was a smirking clown. The Sheng, Dan, and Cho. The trio was complete. You activated the Eye of Truth and the stage shed its disguise. 3 altars revealed their true forms. Instantly, the Eye of Truth activated. The left one was built of broken armor, rusted and worn. Altar number 1001. Linked coordinates, Myriad Heavens Opera House. White Tiger Hall. Why did I fight the enemy so desperately? Only for the Emperor to suspect I wanted to rebel? Why do loyal officials never have a good end? The central altar was made of phoenix crowns and hairpins. Altar number 1003. Linked coordinates, Myriad Heavens Opera House. Changmen Palace. She is crying. Why did I not only give him my heart, but also help him scheme for the world only to end up dying alone in the end? The right altar was formed by thousands of masks with different expressions. Altar number 1004. Linked coordinates, Myriad Heavens Opera. The faces of all beings. He was laughing. Laughing at the rise of the high tower. Laughing as the tower fell. He laughed that everyone in this world is a fool who can't see through it. All 3 IDs were top-tier sequences. One was unwilling, one was resentful, and one was nihilistic. The logic was clear now. A loyal general as the Sheng, a love-struck noblewoman as the Dan, and a treacherous clown as the Cho. Sheng, Dan, and Cho, the roles were all there. But if this play wanted to distinguish between black and white, it was still missing one character. The one with the hottest temper. The Jing role who flips the table and sets the rules. So that's how it is. This is an unfinished tragedy. They were trapped in a tragedy they couldn't escape. The key to breaking the cycle wasn't giving them applause or offering strange gadgets. It was the missing judge who provides the finale. Since there's a lack of someone to flip the table, then I'll do it. Your thoughts shifted, remembering the opera your father loved most during his life. The Jing role represents the rules and heavenly justice the moment he steps on stage. They clearly distinguish between love and hate, loyalty and treachery. They are true characters who stand tall. To be a man, one must be like the Jing role. Black is black, white is white. You must have a scale in your heart and keep your back straight. Under the moonlight, you shook your head with a bitter smile. What your dad said was great, but despite his illustrious military service, he ended up dead in a car crash. How did his loyal bones ever find a good end? Your mom spent her life saving the dying and healing the injured, yet it ended with her white coat stained with blood. Grief, indignation, and madness, like a volcano that had been dormant for billions of years, suddenly erupted from the deepest part of your soul. What a fine, unfinished play. What a fine lack of a good end. What a fine, undying devotion. You stepped onto the dilapidated stage in one stride. The war drums seemed to thunder because of you. Since it's time to perform, let's play it to the fullest. You walked to the edge of the stage and meticulously straightened your clothes. Dress and appearance are a sign of respect. What's respectable isn't this stage, nor the altars, but the character you were about to play. You transformed into the Jing role and roared at the general's altar. General, what did you do wrong? The one at fault is that faint-headed monarch who listened to slanders. All the brothers under your command are dead. If you don't seek justice for them, and just stay here wallowing in self-pity, are you even fit to be a general? This roar no longer carried any operatic melody. It was nothing but pure questioning and rage. You knelt on one knee and smashed a heavy fist onto the stage. This punch set the tone for your grievances. Shang! The altar disintegrated. The resentment dissipated. You turned your body, transforming into a look of pity as you faced the Dan altar. Princess, you aren't at fault either. The one at fault is that scumbag who wasn't worthy of you. There are so many starving people in the world. So many pitiful women. You, a high and mighty imperial concubine, chose to live or die just for some petty romance. Are you fit to be the mother of a nation? I will close the curtain on your tragedy for you. The Dan altar's light dimmed. She was convinced. However, a cackling laughter rang out again. The faces of all beings. Altar's treacherous and eerie laughter didn't stop. Instead, it grew even louder. Great performance. Truly a great performance. Unfortunately, it's all fake. Your hate is an act. Your grief is also an act. You aren't a Jing role at all. You're just a lunatic who crawled onto the stage to run wild. The truth was exposed. The general and princess altars that had been suppressed instantly rebounded with resentment. This wasn't bringing order to the world at all. This was the desecration of an outsider. The clown was still mocking you. You didn't find it funny. Instead, you twitched the corner of your mouth. You also smiled, but there wasn't a hint of warmth in that smile. You're right, I'm a fake. The entire theater fell silent. You pointed at your chest, your voice hoarse. Your joys and sorrows are written in a script. They're just illusions, but me, my tragedy is real. My hatred is alive. Every single second that I'm living is 10,000 times more real than your trashy play. Today, I'll use my own body as the canvas. You suddenly sliced downward. Using blood as ink and bone as the brush, you drew a face mask on yourself, one that was upright and unyielding, yet burdened with blood-deep enmity, born for vengeance. The pain was intense, but the smile on your lips became even more crazed. The originally wavering White Tiger Hall and Changmen Palace were completely suppressed at this moment. Even the faces of all beings altar, which thought it was the only one awake, saw the expressions on its thousands of masks freeze completely. They all turned into pure terror. It's done. Now I am Tiansheng, but I am also the Jing role. Who dare say I'm a fake now? Lonely is being alone on mid-autumn night with no kin to turn to. Hatred is a son whose parents are dead and can't seek justice. It's hatred for this unjust world. Lonely and hateful, I'm not acting as a god. I'm more miserable than a god, and more real than any god. The play crashed first from the White Tiger Hall altar. Killing intent and resentment fully dissipated. Immediately after, the Changmen Palace altar followed suit and collapsed. The phoenix crowns and hairpins shattered inch by inch, turning into a sky full of brilliant golden light. Finally, after a long sigh that sounded like both crying and laughing, a sigh of relief, the faces of all beings altar saw all expressions on its masks vanish, turning into billions of golden particles. 3 distinct golden lights intertwined, reflecting off each other, sharp and radiant. Before you could catch your breath, a pillar of light as red as blood descended from the sky. Like a god-slaying spear, it instantly pierced through all the golden light. Holy crap, Mythic Tier! In your shock? Before you could react, the 3 scattered golden lights actually turned into 3 torrents of information. They frantically poured into your mind. 3 distinct after images appeared in your head. You saw the general planting flowers in a mass grave after his death. You saw the imperial concubine ascending the throne as emperor to rule the world. You saw the clown take off his mask and shed a single tear for a beggar. At the same time, you clearly saw the rewards. 3 treasures suspended above the altars. Thud. Your legs gave way and you knelt on one knee. The drain on your mental energy was simply too massive. You pulled out a bottle of essence blood and downed it in one go. The powerful life force washed through your limbs, and your injuries healed rapidly. You slowly stood up and walked to the White Tiger Hall altar. The Eye of Truth activated. Name, Hegemon's Helmet. Sheng. Series, Legendary. Effect 1. Hegemon's Heavy Might. The stronger your vitality, the heavier the pressure. Proportionally increases physical defense and damage. Effect 2. Last Stand. When besieged by 3 or more enemies, the Hegemon's Heavy might affect scales with the number of enemies. Good stuff! Golden light burst from your eyes. This passive is practically tailor-made for you. Then you arrived at the Changmen Palace altar. Above it was a jade pendant overflowing with brilliant light. Name, Alluring Beauty Pendant. Series, Legendary. Effect, Shift the Blame. All single-target locked attacks directed at you have a chance to be deflected, randomly hitting other units near you. Your expression turned odd. This thing is a bit sinister. It's basically an assassin's worst nightmare. Finally, you shifted your gaze to the right, toward the Faces of All Beings altar. If that clown hadn't pushed you to the brink at the final moment, there wouldn't have been that act of using blood as bone. I am the play. In a sense, this clown role was the making of you. You walked up to it and lightly gripped a dark red tooth in your hand. Name, Tit for Tat Tooth. Cho. Series, Legendary. Effect 1. An eye for an eye. When affected by negative status effects, there's a chance to trigger a counterattack, weakening the effect and reflecting it back to the caster. Effect 2. This item has a certain chance to reflect negative status effects. Your breathing hitched. In today's transcendent era, all kinds of curses and toxins are impossible to guard against. If you stack this chance high enough, you'll be invincible. 3 legendary set items. This wave was a massive profit. Finally, you looked up, your gaze deadlocked on the center of the stage. That spot was where that blood-red celestial light had just struck. The real top-tier loot. Your heart couldn't stop racing. 3 legendary series items were already a fortune, but that blood-red light pillar that crashed down from the heavens was overbearing and brutal, piercing through all 3 golden lights with one strike. Definitely mythic tier, but falling from the sky? That's never happened before. You approached with extreme caution. Where the faint light flickered, there was actually a painted skin, thin as a cicada's wing. Eye of Truth activated. Name, Actor's Mask. Series, Jing. Quality, Mythic. Effect, Jing's Dreadful Heart. Once equipped, anyone whose gaze meets the wearer will feel terror in their hearts and a decline in their will to fight. Good, good, good. You laughed out loud. This Jing's Dreadful Heart is strong. Literally OP. What's even more terrifying is that this Jing series has a total of 7 pieces. If all 7 pieces are mythic tier, what kind of scene would it be once the set is complete? The moon is really round tonight. Your mood improved significantly, just from this one encounter. You remembered the other 2 sentences that came from the letter? Those artists are already impatient and are conducting their final rehearsal. Especially him. He really wants to meet you. After performing that play tonight, the mist finally cleared. Aren't those 3 from the Myriad Heavens Opera House the purest of artists? Following this logic, before you encountered the Myriad Heavens Opera House, you really did know one. With a thought, a ticket appeared out of thin air, with charred edges. Entrance ticket for the 4th act. Number 4. 4. 4. 4. The Weeping Theater. A tragedy in eternal reincarnation on the stage. The female lead. An artist. The female lead. All the clues connected into a single line. The one mentioned in the letter is most likely the eternal female lead of this weeping theater. Back then, you sacrificed that photo of Jia Weiwei that you hated and despised, and received this entrance ticket in exchange. This was the karma already forged between you and that female lead. No wonder the Eye of Truth saw it as a karmic sacrifice. And it even comes with a settling accounts after the fall vibe. You subconsciously check the date on your phone. August 14th. Tomorrow is the Mid-Autumn Festival, the final rehearsal. A sense of dread welled up. What was going to be staged tomorrow wasn't some mid-autumn celebration at all, but a formal performance for the entire world by the artists of the Weeping Theater. Two life-threatening questions stood before you. First, would meeting that eternal female lead be a blessing or a curse? Second, in what form would these artists descend tomorrow? What to do? A trace of ruthlessness flashed in your eyes. You abruptly pulled 3 major items from the dimensional warehouse: the Abyss Magic Dragon Egg, the Soul Render, and the Bloodline Symbiotic Bone. You reached out a finger to lightly touch the Soul Render. It felt ice-cold to the touch, yet was linked to your very soul. This fellow had blocked quite a few soul-shattering impacts for you earlier. Then your gaze fell upon the Bloodline Symbiotic Bone. The 2 bone insects, one large and one small, crawled obediently onto your fingertips. From now on, your surname is also Soul. You'll be called Soul Bone. Finally, you looked at the Abyss Magic Dragon Egg nuzzling your arm. Little Blackie doesn't sound great. Soul Render, Soul Bone, Soul Egg, or Soul Squad is officially formed. Your phone vibrated. It was Zhao Gong. Mr. Su, Xinghei's checkup results are all out. All indicators are back to normal. That's good. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival. By the way, I've made contact with Black Shadow. They let me join directly as a Peripheral Corps member. Peripheral Corps? You paused. Just like Xia Weiwei. Still low tier after all. But the hierarchy of this Black Shadow organization seemed strictly enforced to the extreme. Right, Mr. Su. I've been assigned to a large logistics warehouse stronghold in the east of the city. The east? A look of realization flashed in your eyes. So it really wasn't that Master Ying's chemical plant. Remember to watch and listen more. Protect yourself. After hanging up, you sat under the eaves, eating mooncakes with wine. A bitter smile tugged at your lips. Dad, you better watch closely and learn. The bright moon was swallowed by dark clouds. The entire world instantly went dark. Pitter-patter. Rain began to fall from the pitch-black night sky. You glanced at your phone. Midnight. The 15th day of the 8th lunar month. The Mid-Autumn Festival. Mid-Autumn peace and joy. A time for reunion. These few blessings exhausted the last trace of warmth in you. Killing intent flared instantly. It was time for your grand entrance. You picked up the large black umbrella leaning by the door. Snap! The black umbrella opened, insulating you from the light rain that could format all supernatural powers. Without looking back, you stepped into the boundless curtain of rain. Even if unknown dangers were about to descend, you had to destroy a Black Shadow stronghold first. Black Shadow, here I come.